Who came up to be reckless? Obito, Might Guy is just that. The people in the mountain city of Aoba are numb. According to his calculation, first collect resources, and then find the endpoint. And under this rule, the best tactic is obviously not to fight hard with others, but to stop others. Because, just stop them, keep them out of the center, and when Jonin gets his hands on them, they'll be cleared out. Pity. He said it was useless. Obito, Might Guy all run faster than him. Ms. Kyochi, what do you do when you encounter this kind of? Aoba Yamashiro talked to himself. Think for a long time. He can only keep up. Everyone, I am very lucky to take the second test together. Now let's determine a commander first, and then confirm each other's capabilities and needs. Asuma didn't charge directly. He looked at his two teammates. I'm a bit impressed. Kodzuki Izumo Kodzuki. The previous ninja school was in the same class, but he really didn't know the abilities of the two of them. We were teammates before, we cooperated well, and we are good at physical and knife skills. I know water style, which can help you control it. The two said one after another. The attitude speaks for itself. Listen to you. Asuma breathed a sigh of relief. Teammates listened to him. Perfect. He nodded and said, since you listen to me, then go according to my plan. Let's search around for resources first. If we can meet Shisui and the Yuhihong team later, we will join hands with them to wipe out other enemies first. It is good. Shisui and Yuhihong are not in the same team. People are assigned by Minato. He knew very well that the Kyochi team was best at cooperating. If Kyochi's subordinates were assigned together, it would be a fatal blow to others. Not to mention, Yuhihong herself is not weak. So, in terms of personnel allocation, Kyochi's subordinates are at a disadvantage, because Shisui's two teammates are all civilian genin, without strong ninjutsu, and the only advantage is obedience. Otherwise, even at the age of 5, Shisui may not be able to hold the field. Kurenai Yuhi is better, and it is the same as Ebisu. Not strong, but not weak either. Third generation naturally noticed it and said, Minato has great confidence in your subordinates, especially Shisui. One with 2 civilian genin. This means, in Minato's judgment, Shisui's abilities are beyond the elite genin category. Our two classes have overlaps. Minato really knows the abilities of my disciples better. If Shisui can find ninja swords, his ability is indeed superior to others. Kyochi nodded, then smiled. It's not necessarily a bad thing to disperse. If they all survive, they will have a huge advantage after the first sweep. Indeed. Third generation nodded. If you suffer a loss now, you may not necessarily suffer a loss when you wait for the second round. Overall speaking, Shisui and the others had the upper hand, because Asuma, Shisui, and Kurenai Yuhi easily took command of the team. Soon, all teams go into action. The most reckless ones are Guy and Obito. Under Aoba's search, they quickly found a team, and they really rushed up to eat their opponents, and the medical team quickly entered the field and took them away. The first wave of confrontation revealed the cruel side of the exam. Soon, fighting broke out in multiple places. Among them is the Asuma team. They competed for resource points and fought Iruka's team. Iruka's team includes Shiranui Genma, but they didn't realize Asuma's position, and Kodzuki Izumo stuck them together with the water. Asuma's vacuum wave directly took away one person. Schwanma saves only one teammate. Shisui led people to flee for their lives. He is good at illusion, and his perception is actually not bad, but usually there are Kyochi and red perception detection in the team, so Shisui's ability in this area is not needed. However, at this moment, perception will do a great job. So, Shisui plans to follow the previous idea, first use perception to search for teammates, and join Asuma and Yuhihong's team. Several teams together, joint competition. Third generation's telescope technique is a bit unreadable. There are so many places to fight. But, if there is no telescope technique, I am afraid that it will be more chaotic, and at most you can only see a corner of the forest. Kakashi is sorry. This kind of exam is very fun, and it tests tactics, command, and overall thinking. Unfortunately, I am already a chunin, and although I am the same age as everyone else, I cannot take the exam. At this moment, Kyochi turned his head suddenly, and said to third generation, My lord, please lock Obito in them. Fine. You are the biggest today. Third generation complained inwardly, and silently switched the perspective to the Obito team. Obito and Might Guy rushed very fast, apparently separated from Yamanaka Aoba, and at this time, there was another team in front of them. Lu Ju is the descendant of our two clans. Ding Zuo recognized it at a glance. One of the players who fought against Obito and the others was a member of the Nara family, Nara Oval. The other is Akamichi Shido. The third one is not from the Yamanaka family. However, Even if the two clans join forces, the combat power is quite terrifying. Obito and Guy intentionally avoided the shadow and used the Great Fireball technique to fight back. However, the doubling technique combined with the shadow imitation technique was impossible to defend against, and Obito was directly controlled by the shadow. Boom. Palm. Obito was slammed into the dirt, grabbed and pulled back. You are already dead. The third person, body flicker technique, jumped to Akamichi's hand, and kunai slashed across Obito's neck. No real shot. But, on the normal battlefield, Obito can't die anymore. Might Guy saw that the speed doubled, then. Collapse, withdraw, sell, slip. As soon as Aoba Yamashiro arrived, he was grabbed by Might Guy and they left the battle group together. Idiot. Kakashi covered his face, speechless. How can you be so aggressive? On the battlefield, he died 800 times early. The fight continues. There were casualties on all sides, but they soon discovered that the three of Kyochi's subordinates had almost no casualties, and that Shisui and Yuhihong had completed the confluence. At this time, the two teams jointly swept the surrounding resource points. Kyochi, you didn't leak the question, did you? Third generation narrowed his eyes slightly. 6 people are a team, and the others are impossible to be opponents, and they seem to be converging in Asuma's direction. No, I didn't even teach the red perception technique, lest the 3 teams meet directly. Kyochi is the teacher of the 3 Shisui, and also the chief examiner of this assessment. If you don't explain it, you will be suspected instead. Third generation opened his mouth to give him a chance. Jonin, who was initially skeptical, nodded slightly after hearing Kyochi's words. They naturally know the second generation's secret perception technique. If Yuhihong mastered that level of perception secrets, the rest of the team would not only be facing a team of 6, but a team of 9. At this time, Kyochi not seal, using the summoning technique. Not for a while. A live slug clone appeared beside him. Start the first sweep with Pointa as the center. Moment. A series of signals popped up over the dead forest. The sweep has begun. The entire death forest immediately became chaotic. Everyone shrinks inward. But, in the process of shrinking, it is inevitable that there will be encounters. Guy. Leave me behind and run away by yourself. Kurenai Yuhi and Shisui's combined team is here. Aoba Yamashiro saw the signal flare in the distance, and immediately sent out crows to investigate, and soon he spotted the enemy. Team of 6, several? 6. Might Guy cursed inwardly. Nima. There were only 2 of them, how would they play against a team of this level? Walk together. In the end they couldn't go away. He gritted his teeth and said, I'll give you a secret technique to take you away. No, listen to me. My strength is not as good as theirs, and it's only the first contraction now. The second contraction is the key. After you enter the circle, hide and wait for the second contraction. If we can enter the top 5, our team may still enter the third game. Aoba said quickly. Without Obito's IQ lagging behind, Might Guy is finally able to communicate at this point. He is very relieved, but unfortunately, lacking one person, and meeting Shisui and Shi Hihong's combined team, they have no chance of winning at all. Come here, damn it. Aoba, I will take you into the third scene. Might Guy sensed it too. Red, Shisui. In addition, there are Ebisu, Nazale and so on. It is impossible to win, unless you open above the 4th gate of the 8 inner gates. However, when Might Guy taught him the 8th gate, he said that the 8 inner gates should be opened for protection, and the 4th gate or above should be opened for this kind of competition, and he might be beaten to death by his father when he returned. It's Guy, wrap it up and stop him. Seeing that it was Might Guy, Shisui immediately chased after him with body flicker technique. He is a disciple of Kyochi, and he is very aware of the strength of Might Guy and his son. This is the enemy. If they can rely on 6 people to siege Might Guy here, and follow up with the second Jonin sweep, they will have one less enemy. Ebisu naturally didn't want to. But he is now on the same team as Shi Hihong, and he can't release people openly, so he has to turn his head to deal with the mountain city Chingba. Equally embarrassing are the parallels, so only the Shisui team goes to try and surround Might Guy. However, as soon as Shisui cut in front of Might Guy, he saw a sudden burst of speed from Might Guy. Whoosh, the wind rang. Shisui was halfway through the seal, and before the illusion was activated, he saw that Might Guy had moved away. Too fast. This speed. Is it the secret technique that the teacher mentioned? Shisui thought to himself, it is impossible to catch up. He had no choice but to give up, and return to eat the mountain city green leaves first. However, due to Obito and Guy's first wave of aggressive advances, their team did not gain any resources at all. They killed Yamashiro Aoba, leaving nothing but one head. Even Ebisu felt a little ashamed. He could vaguely guess what was going on. Usually in the team, the teacher is not around. He and Schwanma can hold Might Guy back, but the new team probably doesn't have such a person. Chingye is not bad, but it's a pity that his strength is weaker. Third generation size. Aoba Yamashiro has a good idea. Know what to do, how to implement the tactics, and how to do it to your advantage. But alas, his strength is not enough to be a chunin now. As for Might Guy, third generation only remembers that he ran fast, but he has no impression of other aspects. My lord, Yamashiro Aoba and the others have only graduated less than half a year ago. To have this kind of strength is already due to Kyochi Jonin's meritorious training. In the past, they might not even have this kind of strength. Bai Yun stood up and said in the morning. Trained in Kyochi's way, Konoha's lack of middle and lower ninjas can quickly catch up. Unfortunately, this kind of training cannot be spread to the entire genin level. Too many people. Second, many genins have passed the optimal teaching time, and teaching them again has little effect. As for part of the training, Yuhi Zhenheng is already in charge. At the same time, all Jonin took note of the six-man team. Have tactics. Decisive, ruthless, and quick to act. Shisui in their line of advancement is a slash. The purpose of such a route into the circle is to meet the enemy and wipe out the enemy. The sweep is over, and there are only 11 teams left in the circle. Many of them are fragments, such as Shiranui Genma, Might Guy. They are the only one left in the two teams, and they are all living in the forest. The problem is, there are many ninjas who are good at perception. Leaf Hurricane. Burn, my youth. Leaf Great Whirlwind. A strange cry. Might Guy kicked and injured two people one after another, and then ran away. Asuma looked at the back, and the corners of his mouth twitched. I wanted to catch an order, but I didn't expect to be beaten by the order, but they still couldn't catch up. Difficult. Asuma. Let's meet up with Shisui first to ensure that we will enter the next round. Asuma didn't hesitate any longer. Kodzuki Izumo, Gang ZT were injured, and if they wandered outside, they would probably die. However, the next moment, he encountered two other elite teams. Nara Oval Team, the team with Hyuga Fire Gate. The two teams face off. Asuma sensed something was wrong. Asuma's teammates have assembled. The two teams are one. If we don't get rid of this team, the follow-up will be very difficult. I suggest to jointly eat Asuma first. At this time, supercilious eyes are so useful. Asuma knew something was wrong, however. Run? His belief does not allow giving up his teammates. The current teammate is not seriously injured, he wants to cover Kodzuki's Izumo, and Gang ZT retreats. The consequences can be imagined. Asuma is gone. Kyochi shakes his head. The vigilance of the Asuma team is still insufficient. After sweeping, the range shrinks. Everyone else knows the rules. Wherever there is a fight, someone will come to break it up, and a lone wolf like Might Guy really shouldn't be provoked. Barefoot is not afraid of wearing shoes. Didn't eat it, and made a fuss. Certainly. Asuma's strength is not bad. 2 kunai, combined with vacuum sword, killed 2 teammates of Hyuga Huomen, but no matter how strong he is still alone. Not to mention, Asuma also wanted to save Kodzuki Izumo and Gang ZT. He clearly broke out of the siege, but seeing his teammates trapped, he came back from the outside in a daze, and wanted to use fire style to cover and evacuate. Pity. Although Hyuga Huomen is a branch house, it is not a vegetarian. Find the right time to do acupuncture directly. Asuma's combat strength dropped sharply in an instant. Teammates died, one after another. It was too late to run now. The same situation happened in many places, and the 6th team often appeared. Only Shisui and Yuhi Hong who completed the assembly first and swept all the way could eat each team in the form of crushing. And, even if there is an injury, healing jutsu can save it. Red also learned medical ninjutsu. 3rd generation was surprised. Medical ninjutsu is hard, even harder than genjutsu. Shi Hahong would take this path, he really didn't expect it. The Phantom Ninja Chakra has a strong control ability. As long as you have the learning conditions and theoretical knowledge to catch up, you are a good seed to learn medical ninjutsu. Kyochi said. In addition, Asuma actually surprised everyone. Act silly. But, guarding the hearts of teammates is moving. Who doesn't want to have such teammates who can deliver back on the battlefield? In addition, almost at the moment when the battle broke out on Asuma's side, Kurenai Yuhi and the others reversed direction and charged straight here. The opponents on the road didn't care at all. This mobility. It can be seen how strict and dedicated Kyochi's usual team teaching is. Kyochi Jonin taught us a lesson. If it is not split, it will be difficult for other teams to beat them in this test. Sharp. The few Jonins who stayed here were convinced. This is not done in a day. If it is not disassembled, no team can defeat Kyochi's men in this complex jungle and multi-enemy battle. Even other elite teams such as Might Guy and Hyuga Firegate can't do it. The comprehensive strength is too strong, Asuma? It should be. They may be surrounded. Alive? It's still active, Yuhihong said quickly. Her perception range is wider and clearer than that of Shisui, and at this time the two teams rely more on her information for guidance. I'll speed up first, you guys hurry up and keep up. Hong, pay attention to saving chakra. It is good. Receiving a response, Shisui nodded, and then sped forward. He is fast. Previously, it was reserved to support teammates, but now. Whoosh. After a few flashes, Shisui had disappeared from their sight. Both hands were stunned for a moment. Later, he realized that they were so fast because they could only be so fast, and Shisui's body flicker technique was far stronger than theirs. Not a level. Shisui broke in quickly, crossed the inner circle of the Death Forest in a short while, and found where Asuma was. At this time, Asuma's activity range became smaller and smaller. When he arrived, a group of people were jumping up and down, and in the dark, there were two teams watching. Just when Asuma was exhausted, the giant Great Fireball flew out. Great Fireball technique. Asuma's eyes lit up. But his physical strength is close to exhaustion, and it is impossible to retreat, while he can still extract a little chakra. Asuma seals immediately. Next moment, wind-style Great Breakthrough. Boom. There was a loud bang. Shisui's flame was originally intended to cover Asuma's retreat and did not target the enemy. However, this ninjutsu directly caused the fireball to change its direction. The flames raged, sweeping a field of enemies. Hyuga Firegate and Akamichi Division were directly engulfed in flames. The other Jonins were all speechless. Asuma. Too cruel. The last point is that Chakra didn't want to run, but cooperated with his teammates to attack and kill the enemy. His judgment is that even if he leaves, he can only become a burden to his teammates, so he chooses to help his teammates solve the enemy. Lu Ju glanced at third generation. Although it is just an exam and exercise, being able to make such a judgment and choice is enough to prove that Asuma has considerable battlefield situation judgment and tactical wisdom. Pity. Bai Yun sighed in the morning, but admired it very much. Reason and emotion. Asuma chose teammates. Very good, many experiences, many lessons. Third generation did not disappoint. Asuma's performance has far exceeded his expectations. Actually, he was grateful to Kyochi from the bottom of his heart. What kind of situation is Asuma? How does it feel to be a father? And now, he seemed to have made up his mind. This is commendable. Why? Kakashi was puzzled. There are obviously better options, why make such a decision? He doesn't believe that Asuma doesn't understand. Generally speaking, people who can't complete their tasks are called trash, but those who don't cherish their companions are even worse than trash. Ahem. Third generation coughed again and again, feeling a little embarrassed. Kyochi's words. It's a bit embarrassing. Not only to kill Kakashi's heart. Everyone knows that what Kakashi talks about most is mission first, and the reason is that Hitaki Tsukumo gave up the mission to save his teammates. Kyochi's words are an endorsement of Tsukumo's approach. You don't understand anything. Kakashi's eyes were cold, and he was wearing a mask, so he couldn't see his face. This is just an exam. If you have to give up your teammates to win the exam, it would be too utilitarian. I know you were going to say Guy, but Guy's first thought at the time was to take Aoba away instead of giving up. Kyochi looked serious. Kakashi turned his head and didn't answer. Kyochi didn't bother to say any more. He's not Kakashi's father, so it's enough to just say something casually, and I don't bother to say anything extra. And now there is work to do. On the field, Kurenai Yuhi and the others arrived, relying on their numbers to frighten the two teams in the dark, but Nara and the Oval couldn't stop them. Now it's time to go to Jonin to clean up the battlefield. Akamichi Shido and Hyuga Himon were injured. This is probably the most brilliant achievement Great Fireball technique has made in the Chunin exam. Minato arrived first. The medical class will take a while. Kyochi made mudra with both hands, and Chakra, who made medical ninjutsu, cooperated with the live slug clone to transport it to the live slug on Minato's side. Gradually, Hyuga Huomon and Akamichi Sadong's injuries improved. Live slug technique. Looking at this scene, third generation was filled with emotion and regret. Back then, Tsunade saved many people on the battlefield with this technique. Since Tsunade left, Konoha has no medical ninja who can do this. And now, Kyochi can reproduce it. The issue is, this kid is not a professional medical ninja. In a sense, Kyochi's medical ninjutsu is only a minor, and swordsmanship and ninjutsu are professional jobs. This is amazing. Comparing people to people makes people mad. Thank you. There is no problem here, you continue the exam. Minato noticed Katsuyu's treatment and heaved a sigh of relief. No wonder Kyoshi dared to play so big. Katsuyu technique. With his flying thunder god and instant body technique in this way, as long as the people in the Death Forest are not seriously injured, their lives are basically not in danger. Yes. Kurenai Yuhi stared at Katsuyu, her eyes were full of envy, and then gradually became firm. Illusion has to be learned. Medical ninjutsu must not be let go. She followed the others and turned towards the inner circle. Minato, they are out of danger for now, let's prepare for the finals. Yes. Final circle. This is what the second contraction means. But it was just the first contraction, and many battles broke out during the process, and many accidents directly interfered with the direction of the battle. For example, Asuma is blocked, but Asuma's resistance was fierce. One team eliminated, this record is very proud, and the Nara Oval with only 2 people can't go far. The rest of the finals are either top lone wolves. Like Might Guy. Either a group like Shisui and the others. Kyoshi stopped treatment. There may be many people who need to be healed later, and he wants to save chakra. And at this time, the Jonins continued to shrink, and the battlefield shrunk again. In the process, Shisui and the others ate another team. There is only a small circle left at the final decisive battle point, and it is clear who is basically alive. The Shisui and Yuhihong teams are full. Nara Oval team of 2. The remaining teams are rather weird, Might Guy, Lin and Genma Shiranui. This is a temporary team formed by lone wolves huddled together for warmth. The top 5 qualify for the 3rd round, but there are 6 more teams here. Nara Ellipse panicked. Let's join forces. If we don't join forces, it is impossible to defeat each other. Shiranui Schwanma's face turned slightly pale. Along the way, he exhausted a lot of chakra and physical strength, and now he is at the end of his strength. On the other hand, Shisui, Yuhihong and the others. Waiting for work with leisure, the soldiers are in full swing. Failure to cooperate is a dead end, it is good. Nara Oval heaved a sigh of relief. He was afraid that Might Guy and the others would be reckless, so he joined forces with his opponents to kill them first. That would be miserable. And now, it seems that Xuanzhen and the others still have the idea of overcoming, so there is room for manipulation. He began to ponder. How can you keep going? Master Hokage has worked hard. It's better to be there in person for the last lap. After speaking, the person slipped away. 3rd generation is speechless. This kid. Reality. When it is useful, a group with a good attitude will run away if it is not needed. The others quickly followed. 3rd generation just complained in their hearts for a while. Everyone came to the predetermined a point in the Death Forest. Reality is not a game after all. The map dynamics cannot be shared in real time, so Kyoshi reserved 2 spots, and A is where the final circle will be. Now, the 2 sides face off. On one side are the remnants and defeated generals. The other side, the 2 teams were reorganized, and the momentum was in full swing, and because they won the previous wave, they got all the materials and props on Asuma and the others. Binglang pills are eaten directly by each person, plus various weapons and ninja tools. Not a level fight. Shiranui Genma took out his shuriken and was about to perform ninjutsu when he saw a pile of shuriken thrown from the opposite side, densely packed, as if he didn't want money. He froze for a moment. Immediately afterwards, Genma Shiranui exchanged glances with Might Guy, and said in a low voice, "Guy, we can't beat the other side." Might Guy doesn't understand. Can't beat? Then don't you have to fight a wave? Hey, look, the top 5 will win, you go give them a kick. Shiranuo Xuanzhen coughed lightly. Can't beat it. Can only backstab to protect the quota. Mainly. He could see that Nara's Oval didn't intend to go forward at all, and Might Guy on their side was the most reckless and would probably be out first. In this way, it's better to eliminate them first. Keep the spot. Everyone is fighting hard. It's not good? Nohara Lin was dumbfounded. Didn't you just say you want to join forces? Why the next moment, he was going to backstab again. Might Guy leaves her alone. Compared with Nohara Rin, he obviously believed in Xuanma's words, so. Nara leaned in to avoid the shuriken. At this moment, he suddenly exploded. Active technique, Shadow Dance Leaf. Subsequently. Kick. The Nara Ellipse was sent out, crashing directly into the middle of the battlefield. The next moment, all the attacks from both sides greeted him, but the others didn't react, and were immediately carried away by Minato. Senior Lu Ju, the children of your clan are still a little naive. Kyoshi feigned regret. Joint? There is only 1 quota left, so you can't believe in the union. Don't blame him, the main reason is that there is no choice. Lu Ju smiled. The ellipse is indeed naive, but it is not an option. They are the weakest of the three parties, and even without this crop, they are the most likely to be kicked out. United has the best chance. But how can they truly unite when they have different thoughts? Aside, Kakashi was thoughtful. He thought of Yahiko. At this time, I don't know the situation of Huo Xuanjin and the others. Isn't it the relationship between Shaoran village? Union is indeed the strongest. But 5 people, 4 teams. There are only 3 places. This means that there must be one out. Who can guarantee that after the alliance, it will definitely be in their own interests? What Kanda Kyochi said really came true. Then, Kakashi thought of the previous sentence again. Waste. Worse than trash. However, partners are more important, so what is my father? He clenched his fists. When his father was forced to commit suicide, wasn't it because he gave up his mission to save his teammates? Kakashi was depressed. Kyochi noticed, but he didn't say anything. Kakashi's thoughts. He can guess all kinds of things without using his brain, and this occasion is not suitable to say those. Sweeping the Nara Oval first team. There are 5 teams and 3 small teams left on the scene. At this time, the 3 parties have already started a war. Shisui and Yuhihong have no longer united. At this point, it is no longer necessary. Might Guy still didn't use the 8 inner gates, but only used the breathing activation technique that Might Guy taught him, only using the cell activation and opening part of the gate opening effect. However, even so, his physical skills are still very powerful. His goal, Yuhi Red Squad, Ebisu. Ebisu was powerless to fight. Shiranui Genma and Nohara Rin also took action at the same time. Instead of dealing with Kurenai Yuhi, they helped contain Shisui. Might Guy hits Ebisu hard. It was clear that he was a teammate before, but he was so impolite. He was turning around to deal with the parallel feat, but he felt that there was something wrong with both the distance and the environment. Illusion. When? Might Guy was horrified, and immediately lifted the illusion. But when he dispelled the illusion, what he saw was a scene that made him panic. The red sunset has arrived. Leg lift. Boom. The ground cracked, and a small hole appeared directly. Might Guy was sent flying. A green shadow jumped in and caught him. Might wear it. Father, I can still. Guy, you idiot. Might put on a punch that knocked the newly recovered Might Guy dizzy. He then hugged Guy and cried, well done Guy, you did your best. Baiyun covered his face in the morning, speechless for a while. He used to wonder why Guy's personality was so weird. He would cry bitterly at every turn, and the words of blood, youth, etc. in his mouth were completely incomprehensible. I understand now. Like father, like son. Others were shocked by Yu Hihong's kick. Before, who would have thought? The seemingly weak Yu Hihong has mastered Tsunade's painful feat. And the most insidious thing is that Kyochi also asked Kuroyuki to use it with illusion. Even if he didn't hit the illusion, it was just a moment of chakra's interference, and he was at least severely injured by this kick. Horrible. This is an absolute trump card. Kyochi, you're messing around a bit. Third generation frowned. If the blow just now had been aimed at the top of his head, Might Guy would have been dead at this time. In addition, this technique cannot be practiced by ordinary people. Tsunade can practice and use it at will because she has a strong physique, but Yu Hihong obviously can't. For her, the strange power technique is definitely at the forbidden technique level. He was about to say. The next moment, I saw Ebisu, who was in the same footsteps and heavily injured, coming to Yu Hihong's side. Afterwards, Yu Hihong formed seals, and her palms condensed. Chakra first healed herself. Standing side by side holding a knife in parallel. Obviously, Hong is very aware of her state. My lord, I think the forbidden technique is not impossible to learn, but to understand when it can be used and when it cannot be used. Kyochi knows what third generation means, but he doesn't agree. Third generation thinking is too conservative. If forbidden technique is really useless, why did Senju Tobarama create so many ninjutsu? The third generation was silent. Kurenai Yuhi used the painful foot, and at this time he used healing jutsu to recover, which guaranteed the combat power to a certain extent, and immediately invested in the treatment of Ebisu. A forbidden technique, that turned things around. Not worth it? On the battlefield, it's worth it. Besides, Yu Hihong's condition is not too bad, and under the protection of her teammates, she will be able to recover her combat power soon, but in the short term, it is definitely not good to use Pain Tianjiao again. Recovery is also limited. The ligaments and muscles that have just been treated are very fragile at this time, and if they are used again, they may really be useless. Forbidden technique, let's talk about it later. Third generation side. He tasted it. Kyochi has been working on this recently. The breathing activation technique that was sent up to repay the debt before, and the current use of the strange power technique, although the latter is not promoted, it obviously means the same thing. Forbidden technique is not impossible to use, it just depends on the timing. Yes. Kyochi nods. Third generation is preoccupied with things, so how can they have time to watch the exam? The current test results are basically clear at a glance. Even if he has not passed the third test, he basically has a draft list in his heart. Might Guy, Yuhihong. Normally, he should give Shisui a place, and Yuhihong is not fully up to the standard, but the last kick of Yuhihong is really impressive. Secondly, Shisui is too young. This year, he just celebrated his 5th birthday not long ago. He is a genius. But the trees are beautiful in the forest, but the wind will destroy them. There are no such words in the ninja world, but the reason is the same. Third generation is an old world. If he wants to deal with Uchiha, he will choose to promote Shisui and make a big publicity wave to let everyone know that Uchiha has produced such a record-breaking talent. Even promote Obito again. Obito. Except for a single mind, there is nothing wrong with combat effectiveness, and Chunin's level is definitely up. After some manipulations, wouldn't those idiots come rushing to die in a few years? But he likes Shisui. This child is a descendant of Uchiha Kagami, and now he has learned the will of fire from Kyochi. In Konoha, he is kind and restrained, which is different from other Uchiha people. Guaranteed, Uchiha may not have a future. With complicated thoughts, he cleared his mind and breathed a sigh of relief. This arrangement is very good, think carefully. Fortunately, Asuma did not survive to the finals, otherwise Asuma performed well, and there is Kuroyuki, will he mention Asuma's spot or not? Third generation's eyes regained focus, and he looked at the battle group again, but was slightly surprised. How did Shisui die? My lord, after they eliminated Rin Nohara and Genma Shiranui, Shisui assassinated Ebisu with the blink technique combined with swordsmanship, but was affected by Kuroyuki's illusion. Although it was released in time, it was still killed by the same foot. Lu Ju answered promptly. The reply was honest, without any personal opinion. Third generation was stunned for a moment, and then a weird smile appeared on his face. The overall strength of the team, Yuhihong's side is indeed stronger, but the actual situation is not the case. Might Guy rushed through a while and severely injured Ebisu, forcing Yuhihong's whole card. So, if Shisui and his teammates slowly wear off their energy, it is impossible to win in the situation where Yuhihong consumes chakra and has a lot of energy. The results of it: assassinate an Ebisu who has just been rescued and is not strong in combat. To change the battlefield is to exchange Sanin for a genin of the opponent, which is an extremely stupid tactical decision. Some people don't want to win. Really. Wonderful. Third generation looked at Shisui with both love and fear in his heart. Genius. From him, third generation saw the shadow of Fugaku. No, he is more talented than Fugaku. But what if such a person goes to extremes as the teacher said? Isn't that the second Madara? He has another headache. The third exam will be held in a few days. Let's invite Daimyo to watch the battle. Let him see the strength of Konoha's new generation, so he can rest assured. Third generation whispered to Lu Ju. Lu Ju nodded slightly. Kyochi knew what was going on without eavesdropping. The quota has basically been determined so far, and the next match is just an exhibition match, so he didn't bother to care about the process of the third match and let them figure it out by themselves. The list. He can probably guess. Except for some people who fished, the 3 were the most eye-catching in this assessment. Asuma, Might Guy, Yuhihong, choose 2 out of 3. However, Asuma did not make the top 5 and is the son of third generation, so there is a high probability that he has no chance. Really, Red, your daughter has the demeanor of Master Tsunade back then. Yes. Oh, maybe it will be the next generation of Sanin. On the way, everyone met Shihai Zhenheng and said hello. Yuhi Zhenheng, who returned from training Chunin, looked confused. But he guessed some situations. There is a high probability that his daughter has practiced that trick, and she is very popular in the exam. She also showed off other medical ninjutsu. Chunin, it may be stable. Good thing. He was thrilled, and then he couldn't help feeling grateful to Kyochi. Yuhi Zhenheng knows very well that although her own illusion is not weak, it is hard to compare with the Uchiha family, and her daughter is somewhat different from him, and her achievements in concentrating on illusion are limited. But he couldn't provide anything else. Unexpectedly, what he couldn't give, Kyochi gave it all. Thank you for turning around. Konoha Building, Hokage Office. Kenu Yuhi is not bad. I thought she could develop into illusion before, but I didn't expect that you also taught a medical ninja. Third generation pointed to the seat and motioned for Kyochi to sit down. After saying this, he thought for a while and sighed. I always thought that my educational ability is good, but since you became a teacher, I found that I have nothing to be proud of. My lord, be humble. Sannin is famous in the ninja world, who doesn't know? Kyoshi shook his head. Third generation was silent, trying to discern in his mind whether Kyoshi was eccentric or serious. After a few seconds, he didn't bother to think about it. 3 of them. Only Orochimaru I spent a lot of effort on. Jiraiya was taught by Mount Myoboku, and Tsunade was Senju, but Orochimaru is just one person. Sarutobi Hiruzen paused halfway through speaking. You are an elite soldier in education. I am a big class, and I will be treated specially in special times. There is no way to do it, let alone the same thing. The role of anyone of Sannin is irreplaceable. Kyoshi is modest. But he actually didn't expect that when third generation came to chat with him, the opening would be so explosive. Put it bluntly. This is to take off the face and throw it on the ground, waiting for him to step on it, but this job can't be done yet. When you get old, you will have more emotions. Third generation sighed and shook his head. Then, holding the pipe, he said, what do you think about forbidden technique? It's not that all forbidden techniques can't be used. Naidame has studied so many ninjutsu, and it's not to put those techniques on the shelf, but to strengthen Konoha and protect the village. Forbidden technique should be graded according to the degree of harm, and it should be promoted secretly among a small group of people on a voluntary basis. Kyoshi said slowly. The third generation is silent. It's not that he hasn't thought about it, but how to define the harm. Everyone's situation is different. Kyoshi seemed to know what he wanted to say, and then said, as long as it can be cured and does not damage the ability to move, I think it is worth promoting. The promotion class can be temporarily limited to special Jonin and Jonin. The reason for choosing these 2 levels is because the ninjas of these 2 levels are more trustworthy in strength and integrity, and they are unlikely to be spies from other villages. Rating. Third generation frowned. Of course he understood what Kyoshi meant. Forbidden technique does have different levels of danger. For example, impure world reincarnation is an absolute forbidden technique in his eyes, because it is a technique to play with the dead and is easily attacked by the whole ninja world. But, like multiple shadow clone, it is not a forbidden technique that is too harmful. As long as it is kept within a certain limit, it is basically not harmful to the body. This is true for the 8 inner gates, 7-day call and beggar's version of the activation technique. Harm. However, it is not to the point of death. There is a certain harm in the practice process, but compared to death in battle, this harm is obviously much smaller. And the effects of these forbidden techniques may change the situation of the battle. But after all, it is harmful, and it may not be easy to implement it. Third generation hesitated a bit, but I have to admit that he was a little tempted. In recent years, Konoha fought against Waimura, and the ninja reserve dropped a lot. If the casualties of special Jonin and Jonin classes can be reduced, Konoha will have an advantage in the war. He thought for a long time. Finally, he took a deep breath and sighed. I've been thinking recently that I may be really old. Since the teacher died in battle and I took over, Konoha has hardly changed. Kyoshi breathed a sigh of relief. He knows. Third generation probably agreed. Sarutobi Hiruzen paused for a moment before continuing. In this way, I can basically agree that the person who likes to study forbidden technique in the village is Orochimaru besides you. I will find him later, including you, Minato and might die. Have a meeting with a few people. Yes. Kyoshi nods. The words of third generation are basically finalized, and the follow-up question is to define the level of forbidden technique. Kyoshi Kanda is out the door. Third generation sat in the office, recalling the 3 of Asuma in their minds. Shisui forget it. This kid was known as a genius before. Asuma, Yuhihong. The 2 of them have changed and grown so much that third generation is a little unbelievable. Perhaps. I am so old. Complete the practical training, exercise teaching. Evaluation. Excellent. Award. 1. Chakra Scalpel. 2. Konoha Ryu Swordsmanship Dance of the Crescent Moon. 3. Vacuum Sword. You can choose 2 out of 3 rewards. Besides, there is also a Forbidden Technique Practical Teaching bonus. General rewards. Earth-style Earth Dragon Bullet. It is mainly the reward in the Excellent evaluation. 3. All very good. Chakra Scalpel. Kyoshi had been staring at it for a long time, but he thought about it and ruled it out. Without him. In Tsunade's scroll, there is this medical ninjutsu. His chakra control ability is very strong, and it's not that he can't learn this kind of ninjutsu. He can learn it as simple as possible without relying on rewards. Thinking of this, he didn't hesitate any longer. Vacuum Sword. Dance of the Crescent Moon. Kyoshi received the reward and suddenly thought of something. Crack. He immediately opened the door and went back. only to see third generation sitting on the seat smoking a cigarette, as if he was still looking at something. When he saw Kyoshi open the door, he immediately coughed violently. Third generation sat upright calmly and asked, "Is there anything else?" "Yes, my lord, you promised me to make me a chakra knife as soon as I get the Chunin exam project done." The third generation fell silent. So busy thinking about things, he really forgot. Chakra knife. This thing is not cheap, and you can't buy it with money in normal times. He sighed. "Do you have any request? Normal knives are fine, and it's convenient to cooperate with drawing knives. Blade of the Thunder Spirit is not easy." Kyoshi said. "The request is not high, okay." Third generation thought for a while and said, "Awesome is weapon, do you have any suggestions?" "Just let him make up his own mind. Can you use the weapon for him?" Kyoshi is very rude. He can't teach others, but how to deal with Asuma. He may be much more resistant than third generation. The old man wants to arrange everything. It's not a verbal arrangement, but a subtle way to make Asuma follow him. However, Asuma is donkey. Hold on and not go, fight backwards. At least for now. 2. Third generation nodded. Kyoshi came out of the office. 2 knives. Enough is enough. But this blade of the Thunder Spirit is always not in my hand. After using it for a while, the more I use it, the more I understand why Senju Tobarama put it on the shelf. In addition to being gorgeous and cool, there are no other advantages. I really want to say, it is to make up for Kyoshi's lack of lightning style, but most of the time it is useless, far worse than a normal knife. No. When Mist Shinobi goes to war, I have to find a way to get a ninja sword. A beheading knife and a blunt knife are good. It's not how strong those 2 knives are, but they are big, and they should be able to produce a lot of chakra iron when melted. Isn't it a waste of materials to cast it like that? After leaving the door, he began to comprehend the vacuum sword in the Dance of the Crescent Moon. Very good swordplay. The former is wind-style swordplay. And the latter. Kyoshi didn't pay much attention to the swordsmanship itself. In Kyoshi's eyes, the swordsmanship of the Dance of the Crescent Moon is quite rough. It's basically just a slash without much technical content. However, the assassination knowledge that comes with it is a good thing that many rewards can't get. Assassinate, hide, find flaws. This is the essence of this move. There are system rewards, which can make Shadow Clone read a few more medical books. At least it is no problem to master Chakra Scalpel. After all, that thing is only difficult to operate, and it is very simple to use. As for the vacuum sword, this trick is very strong. Wind-style swordsmanship is very suitable for Shisui and Asuma, but for Kyoshi, he still wants to change it and integrate wind-style swordsmanship into his own swordsmanship. Still draw the knife and chop. Kyoshi's idea is that when encountering an enemy, it is best to assassinate him. Certainly. Can't be a swordsman. Kyoshi is not this type either, except for sword drawing, ninjutsu, and genjutsu, he has a little bit of knowledge. Now that he has the knowledge that comes with the Dance of the Crescent Moon, his assassination can be regarded as a supplement. Although it's not too strong, isn't there a clone in the family who has been working hard? Kyoshi is in no hurry. Now Madara is not dead yet, his eyes have been staring at Nagato. As long as he doesn't do anything to Nagato, he doesn't even bother to look at Uchiha. The reason is simple. Look down on. Kyoshi understands. They didn't dare to leave when they wanted to go together, but now they are being bullied and suppressed, so who can blame them? For him, he is the same. It's not bad if you don't come up and kick it. Kyoshi walked a few steps, and was planning to have a meal, and refresh the shadow clone in the study by the way, when the live clone reappeared beside him. Kyoshi, Tsunade asked me to give it to you. Thank you very much. Kyoshi took the letter, opened it and read it as he walked. Tsunade didn't say anything. It's nothing more than praise for him, mastering the Katsuyu technique so quickly, and learning medical ninjutsu well. But the meaning revealed in the words is obvious. Kyoshi presides over here for the Chunin exam, she learned about it from a live slug. That's alright. He didn't intend to hide it. Tsunade knew he was relieved, at least Big Sheep didn't need to gamble to know safety. But underneath, Tsunade also talked about a forbidden technique that was being conceived. 100 Healings Mark is a technique left by my grandmother. It just stores chakra. Then I thought it could be used with Katsuyu technique. Recently, I had another idea. Ninja art. Meiotic regeneration. Kyoshi saw the idea and immediately thought of Tsunade's proud technique. Can simulate Senju Hashirama's Muji self-healing effect. Although its lifespan is shortened, its power is beyond doubt. This letter from Tsunade was probably sent to ask for opinions after knowing about Kurenai Yuhi. It can be seen from the letter that Tsunade's ninja art, meiotic regeneration, is still in the early stages of creation. The information in the letter was very vague, and only gave a general idea. Kiyoshi puts the letter away. When you get home, write a reply immediately. Before changing, this letter was really difficult to write, because he only knew the effect of ninja art, meiotic regeneration, and only stayed at the surface of the principle, but now he has ink in his pen after studying a lot of medical books. In a while. Country of Taki. Tsunade sat on a roof, looking at this quiet and beautiful village. His face was a little confused, but also a little determined. At this time, Shizune climbed up from below. Master Tsunade, have you been worried recently? Adults, children don't inquire about it. I don't have any debts now. Tsunade sneered. In the past, I often ran into a deficit when gambling, and lost all my living expenses, so I could only take orders from Shizune. Can now. Although she gambled, she didn't lose money. If you lose your gambling money, then grab the gambling and earn it back. Tsunade has self-respect. He never used ninjas when he went to casinos before. Now she doesn't use perception for gambling, but uses perception for gambling. Really caught a lot of thousands. Thanks to this, Tsunade has forgiven a lot of debts. Even. Several casinos wanted her to stay and specialize in the protege, but Tsunade turned her down. Gambling is a hobby, and gambling is for life, and by the way, it clears up the atmosphere. How can a tree be hanged? But Tsunade hasn't been having a good time lately. Because of the matter over there in the land of Earth? Shizune pouted. When she doesn't know. Every time Tsunade loses his temper, there must be something on his mind, and it is likely to have something to do with the Kanda Kyochi, who is similar to the second generation project. As for the reason, she could more or less guess. Iwagakure is getting stronger and stronger. Recently, Onogi has faintly shown signs of wanting to do something. Many people in the surrounding Shounen village have already heard the news and started to shrink the manpower on the side of the land of Earth. My lord seems to have left the village, but I still miss him somewhat. Tsunade looked at his hand, sighed but didn't answer. Before, she really didn't care about the affairs of the village. There was no one she cared about there, even the old man. That's all there was to it. She would be sad when he died, but not too sad. But ever since she knew that Iwagakure might do something, she often dreamed that the kid was covered in blood. It wakes her up every time, however. Own phobia. Just as she was thinking, there was a wave of chakra beside her, followed by the live slug clone. It carries a letter. Tsunade immediately took it and took it apart. Shizune peeked up cautiously. Tsunade naturally knew it, but he didn't take it seriously, and took it into his hand and looked at it carefully. She told Kyochi the idea of 100 healings mark and ninja art, meiotic regeneration, hoping that he would try it, and if he learned it, he would have a way to save his life on the battlefield. As for Muji self-healing, this is a purely personal problem, and somehow I talked to Kyochi about it. But unexpectedly, Kyochi really talked about this in his reply letter, and he said it clearly and logically. Sister Tsunade, you plan to use 100 healings mark to achieve Muji self-healing, but there is still a step in the middle. First spread the chakra of 100 healings mark all over the body, and then it is possible to achieve instant Muji self-healing. Yup. After watching it, Tsunade was stunned. Excited, she ignored the address of Sister Tsunade. She thought about calling chakra from 100 healings mark before, but forgot one thing. If you call chakra after you are injured, the effect is not Muji self-healing at all. That's at best the unprinted version, but if you can liberate 100 healings mark and at the same time let the liberated chakra spread evenly throughout your body, you can do this. Certainly. In this way, the requirements for chakra control are even higher. Not only must it spread all over the body, but there must also be no loopholes, and there are many benefits. If this can be achieved, Tsunade is equivalent to being able to use strange power all the time. That's right. The idea given by Kyochi is Beihao technique. He found that Tsunade was only thinking about 100 healings mark and ninja art, meiotic regeneration, and the most important bridge hadn't been thought of yet, so he clicked in the letter. In fact, in Kyochi's view, Beihao technique is no less important than ninja art, meiotic regeneration. Ninja art. Meiotic regeneration is strong, but it's a forbidden technique, and it comes at a great price. Period is different. It is useless by itself, but combined with 100 healings mark and strange power, the effect is very powerful. Tsunade is smart. She just didn't expect it, but as long as she understands, it's not difficult at all. But many skills are just that little bit worse. Good boy. Tsunade held the letter, not knowing what to say. She mentally mentioned to Kyochi that he should try to learn 100 healings mark. Although it is difficult, but what if you learn it? Result. Now it's the other way around. She just mentioned something casually, and Kyochi figured it out. Master Tsunade? Nothing. Tsunade pouted and put the paper away. I was educated by the kid again. Hateful. That kid. Can't you let yourself teach it once? Oh yes, I have consulted about the strange power technique before. However, she doubted that Kyochi would not have asked her for advice on this technique if it hadn't been for the fact that there was no scroll for the strange power technique. It seems that he can also swordsmanship? Talent is great too. Tsunade thought of second grandpa. Same. This kid is really the same as second grandpa. Happy, sad. Many emotions are mixed in my heart. Shizune, do you want to go back to the village? What? Shizune's eyes widened. Tsunade going back? What are you kidding? After talking for so many years, Master Tsunade has never been soft-spoken, so Kyochi only met and sent a few letters, mostly asking questions rather than chatting. As a result, Tsunade wanted to go back just like that. This kid is in trouble recently, Jiraiya is not here, no one goes back to support the scene. What should I do if I was tricked by those old things? Tsunade snorted coldly. Forbidden technique unlocked? These old guys don't have a good thing, especially the one who hides in the dark is the most disgusting. Maybe he has been eyeing Kyochi for a long time. By Orochimaru? On forbidden technique, this product is unreliable. Although Senju is long gone, but Kyochi is Senju's blood anyway, she can't be caught and bullied. The forbidden technique you mentioned earlier? Well, he had good intentions. He hoped that Konoha would be stronger and that fewer people would die in the war, but there are some old things. Tsunade sneered. Afterwards, she glanced at Shizune and explained, it's not bad, but they just stared at my 1 acre 3/4 of land, with dark thoughts, narrow vision, and stubborn thoughts. I have dealt with those old guys a lot back then. Then, I'll go pack my things right away. Shizune understood. Tsunade is eager to return home, for fear that Mr. Kyochi will be bullied. No problem, arrange. Kyochi naturally didn't know that Tsunade was planning to come back. Regarding the forbidden technique, he doesn't plan to make a big fuss. It is known that he has such a plan. In fact, it is only the circle above Jonin. Others, even Kakashi, who audited some of the Chunin exams, only have a half knowledge. Don't blame him. Where did Kakashi learn forbidden technique? Forbidden techniques such as impure world reincarnation and soul imprisonment are definitely not allowed. This is the most taboo. Stealing is not allowed. This would make Konoha a target. But strange power. To put it bluntly, if the physique meets the standard and can withstand the reaction of the strange force, this thing is not considered a forbidden technique. As for respiration, this kind of beggar's version of forbidden technique is not counted. If that counts, Cloud Shinobi Village's lightning-style chakra active stim also won't work. Kyochi is targeting this category. Otherwise, he didn't need to lower the threshold of the activation technique at all, and he could just use the first activation of the 7-day invocation. The third generation is also clear. Otherwise, with his stubborn and rigid thinking, it would be impossible for him to agree to hold a small circle meeting to discuss. However, Kyochi is well aware that third generation may not have some ideas of his own. Orochimaru. I don't know if I fanned the butterfly's wings, which caused a little difference, or what. Recently, third generation in Jiraiya's defense against Orochimaru is much stricter than that in Hokage, and they mentioned Orochimaru to him one after another. The two of them must have guessed something, and there is a high probability that Jonin missed something during the exam. For Kyochi, nature is a good thing. I am of the Senju lineage. Orochimaru. Danzo staring at him secretly, what is it? There is no reason to guard against thieves for 1,000 days. Take it out and beat a dozen, it's more or less safe. Kyochi sent the letter to him live, thinking in his heart, whether Tsunade could quickly grasp the guidance of Hakuho technique that he had worked so hard on. Next moment, he was prompted. You have completed the instruction of La Beihao technique. Evaluation. Excellent. Reward. Principle of 100 healings mark. Only principle? Kyochi was very happy to hear the reward at first, but he didn't expect it was just the principle of 100 healings mark, which he had already seen in Tsunade's letter. What about cheating? He quickly took it. Then, wrong. The system is still really powerful. The rewards are not only the principles, but also all the knowledge, detailed skills, etc. involved in 100 healings mark. If Kyochi is a woman, she can practice right now. Certainly. The 100 healings mark itself does not involve the difference between men and women, but Uzumaki Mito, who created this seal, has not tried it on men, so she is not sure if it can be used, and Tsunade is not sure. Because this technique is too difficult. S-level difficulty. You need to know the sealing technique very well, and even Tsunade was practiced later, so I don't know if men can practice it. The letter only asks Kyochi to try it. Anyway, if you can't practice it, you will waste some time. But it is mentioned in the system version that the chakra veins around the eyebrows are indeed slightly different between males and females. 100 healings mark needs a makeover. Kyochi is thinking about. Teacher. As soon as Shisui knocked on the door, he heard the door open with a squeak, but there was no one behind it. What's going on? What kind of ninjutsu did the teacher develop? He was surprised. After entering the door, he saw a piece of paper flying away. Paper. Obediently. Shisui didn't know Conan's ability, but this kind of ninjutsu opened his eyes, and he quickly chased after him. The next moment, the paper folded and turned into a paper knife. It's dancing. Lu Jianshu. Shisui's eyes widened, but he didn't respond for a long time. Ha 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 ha, it's not long since I learned the technique secretly from others, and I still can't do it so well. Kyochi smiled. Lu Jianshu relies on the combination of movement and light to achieve illusion and confusion. You can't do it with origami alone. This will definitely not trouble the teacher. Shisui's eyes lit up. This trick, so cool. It's not that practical for now. Kyochi beckoned, a pile of papers whirled, and brought the teapot over. Shikiji dance works. But that's it. For the time being, it's better to wipe the neck with a knife. Your insight is almost comparable to Sharingan. Shisui is not a compliment, but serious. Play a game and learn the opponent's skills. Heaven defying. Don't be silly, what's the matter? Yes, I almost forgot the business. He was so shocked that he almost forgot the original intention of coming. We're here to ask questions. Teacher, I'm here to ask you to give me some advice. Shisui said in a low voice. Tell me first. Kyochi was non-committal. It probably has something to do with Uchiha. The facts are as expected. Shisui explained the cause and effect, and Kyochi was not surprised at all, because this guy had no intention of Chunin at all. Not a surprise. But the current Shisui is much smarter than Hokage, and knows the truth of hiding clumsiness. Not for nothing. Kyochi reached out, feeling around. After confirming that there was no Anbu lurking around, he said, you can understand this and directly reject Senior Fugaku. I really didn't expect it, but well done. Teacher, but Hokage-sama, you didn't try your best to hide it from him. Kyochi didn't go into details, but Shisui also understood, otherwise he wouldn't have come this time. He just found out today that third generation also has a telescope technique. Don't worry, if I really want to do something to you, it's useless for you to hide your clumsiness. Don't think too highly of yourself, little brat. You're only 5 years old, and you haven't opened your eyes yet. Kyochi patted him on the shoulder. Shisui froze for a moment. He is a genius of Uchiha, and the words of the people from the small to the big clan are you are very important to the family, you must remember the family, and help the family to make more profits. Today, for the first time, someone said to him, don't think too highly of yourself. Don't believe it. Hey, you, me, and even your clan, can't function without Konoha or will you lose the battle. Kyochi continued. This, probably not. Shisui hesitated for a moment, then shook his head. Uchiha is strong. But, without them, Konoha is still very strong. Then it's over. When did you feel that you were important enough to affect the fate of your people? Don't think too highly of yourself, at least you are not qualified now. Kyochi said flatly. The words are rough and the rationale is not rough. Shisui is much smarter than the original book, so he just opened his mouth to say this, otherwise he would never have mentioned it. Actually not just now. Even with Mangekyo in the future, is he powerful enough to influence the entire clan? No illusion is an illusion after all, it cannot manipulate everyone's mind. Only by illusion. Impossible. Among other things, it is impossible for Uchiha Madara alone to make the Uchiha clan so easy. Uchiha Shisui opened his mouth wide and wanted to say something several times, but he couldn't speak in the end. He didn't know what to say. Because, thinking about it carefully, it seems that I am really nothing. Improving your strength is the first priority, and the second is that you develop your own people in the clan. You have to let what you say be heard and supported. I see, teacher. Shisui nodded solemnly. He completely understands. Uchiha Fugaku is smart, but unreliable. He has to recruit a group of people to support his views, otherwise Fugaku would not be able to openly support within the clan. Fugaku is such a person. So, not only to gain strength, but also to let the clansmen understand their intentions and understand the will of fire, that the teacher said. Ideological education must be grasped. This is to distinguish who is the partner and who is the enemy. Shisui was excited, he really understands. Partners are not born with you, you need to develop slowly by yourself. Helping those old granny with Obito, isn't it the process of turning an enemy into a friend? This is also similar. If you want to change Uchiha and let the family walk on the path you want, you must have your own partners in strength. Simpler. That's what the teacher meant, someone must listen to what you say. Very good. Kyochi nodded slightly and said nothing more. No need. Shisui has already understood, but he has no idea about the follow-up, and it is useless to talk about it, and he is probably even more confused. It is better to let him complete the establishment of his own people first. But doing this now, Kyochi feels quite nonsense, and I don't know if Shisui can do it now. After all, he is not Shisui, who is famous in the ninja world, but a child over 5 years old, and his strength is also among his peers. Compared with the entire ninja group, he is just a drop in the ocean. Shisui went out, and the system prompt sounded. Another wave of rewards. And the reward is illusion. Magic mirror world. This technique surprised Kyochi. He thought it was a Sharingan illusion, but in fact, it was just a counter illusion. The reason why it cooperates with Sharingan requires the powerful insight and cracking effect of Sharingan. This illusion involves a lot of cracking skills. Kyochi is confident that if he falls under the illusion now, he can dispel the illusion in an instant, and even counter. Without the Sharingan, the effect is not as strong, but at least counteracts the chakra confusion caused by the illusion. Yes, earn blood. Kyochi was rather pleased. Although it is not a strong technique, it can make up for its own shortcomings. He has no shortage of common killers. This kind is not bad. Certainly. The key right now is the 100 healings mark, if we can find a way to make a feasible 100 healings mark. Mastering this technique is of great use no matter what you do. Originally, the process was difficult. Because the sealing technique has always been the most difficult project, any detail may affect the effect, resulting in a failure. But Kyochi knows the principle and all the details of 100 healings mark, and he has another sealing technique. 4 elephant seals. This is the top sealing technique outside forbidden technique. Although it is not a technique, some techniques and sealing principles are similar and can be used for reference. Kyochi draws the spell. After watching for a while, he had a flash of inspiration. Isn't it just a reservoir? The pit is not that big, so let's store less. Although the quantity is not as much as Tsunade, it is better to use it anyway than not at all. I don't plan to practice ninja art, meiotic regeneration, and I just need to cooperate with Beihao technique and breathing technique. He took a closer look at the sealing spells, and as long as a few spells were removed, the capacity of the 100 healings mark could be reduced. Feasible. But, or talk to Tsunade. Kyochi passed his thoughts on live. During this period of time, the most important function of the living slug being summoned is to communicate. Thanks to the good temper of Katsuyu Immortal, it is replaced by the toad of Mount Myoboku, and I guess I will quit it long ago. Not for a while. Tsunade spoke back. Master Tsunade said that it's okay to try to eliminate these relatively harmless spells, but after the elimination, the requirement for chakra's control power will increase a lot, and you should do what you can. Thank you very much. Harmless? That's it. Kyochi is 70% sure. Since there are no side effects, he can try boldly. Not for a while. He felt that the seal was initially formed. But whether it leaks or not, it's hard to say right now. You can only know by importing chakra. It's been a long time. Chakra gradually flowed into the seal, but not long after, a little bit of chakra leaked out from another place. One of the removed spells affected the integrity. After many experiments, he slowly got the hang of it, but he had assigned a shadow clone out, and just now he kept experimenting, and chakra was almost exhausted. The next day, after waking up, he distilled chakra and put part of the chakra into the modified 100 healings mark. To afternoon. This part of the chakra lost almost a fifth. But this is the best result so far. He also tried the original. After chakra entered, it spread out from several veins, causing a dull pain between the brows, so he stopped trying immediately. Improving the S-level sealing technique is really not that simple. Forget it. Use the simplified version of the 4-image seal to nest a layer first, fill in a few loopholes, and then untie it when needed. Although it is troublesome, it is better than charging every day. Kyochi thought of a temporary alternative. There is no way. If you maintain the current state, it can barely be used, but the loss of chakra is not small. Anyway, there has been no battle recently, so it is better to save the 4-element seal first. There is another advantage to this. Unless the simplified version of the 4-element seal is unlocked, outsiders will not be able to see that they have practiced the 100 healings mark. After getting it done for the time being, my stomach growled. After eating, Kyochi went to see Shisui and Kurenaya Yuhi while running. Red is practicing chakra scalpel. This is the medical ninjutsu she cares most about. Can attack and defend. If she can do it well, she will have some cards in the third test. Shisui is practicing fencing. Judging from his style, it should be Uchiha-style swordsmanship, which incorporates fire-style and wind-style chakra, and its power is indeed impressive. He took one look and left. Kurenai Yuhi's ninjutsu scroll was given by herself, and Shisui doesn't need his guidance for the time being. Kyochi has already heard about the news of the third exam. Third generation invited daimyo, obviously. This is equivalent to a genin-level military exercise, allowing daimyo to see the strength of Konoha's new generation, so that he can have a good idea, so as not to be forced to do anything under the pressure of other major powers. Kyochi didn't intend to take part in the third exam. During this period of time, he just wanted to honestly improve his abilities and integrate the few sword skills he had at hand, while the Avatar was studying Mist Shinobi Technique, Medical Ninjutsu and Mirage Illusion. Are busy. However, even so, the third generation still sent a mission. The daimyo promised to come to Konoha for a visit. You and Minato will take someone to escort you, and you must ensure the safety of the daimyo. Third generation said positively, just the two of us? Children who are taking the third test cannot go. Let's mix up your team. Asuma, Obito and Yamashiro Aoba form a temporary team. In fact, according to third generation's idea, Kyochi and Minato are completely enough. But, considering the daimyo's mentality, it may be more secure to give more people. Yes. Namikaze Minato complied. Kyochi rubbed his temples and had to agree. Who made third generation pay for it? Village entrance. Asuma looked shocked and curious. Obito was weak and depressed. Although Might Guy entered the third round, he and Aoba were eliminated early and were not eligible to participate in the third round. Obito regretted knowing the news. Had I known this earlier, I wouldn't have been reckless. Register and leave the village. Outside, Asuma couldn't help asking. Teacher, what is our mission this time? Escort the daimyo. What? Name? Asuma's eyes widened, quite surprised. No wonder two Jonins are needed for such an important task. But, together they don't hold back. Asuma hesitated to speak. Kyochi, divide the work. Minato looked sideways while running. You and Asuma protect the daimyo. I will see the situation myself. If you are restrained, the other three will be led by Asuma, and everything will be under Asuma's command. Kyochi didn't hesitate. These three people have only 2.5 brains. From the second test, it can be seen that Aoba can't command Obito at all, and can only let Asuma play. Obito wanted to refute. But, he also heard about Asuma's performance in the Chunin exam afterwards. Very brave and fierce. If it wasn't for saving his teammates, it would be impossible to be eliminated. In comparison, I seem to be. Well, Obito sighed under his breath. Minato and Kyochi didn't enlighten either. This kid remembers eating but not playing, he comforted him, he probably forgot about the Chunin exam soon. But, Asuma was very excited. Kyochi looked strange. You kid is at least the son of the third generation, seeing a big name is like meeting an idol. Shame on you. The key is, haven't seen this yet. On the road from Konoha to Kyoto, the prosperity of the town can be seen at a glance. This road connects Konoha and Kyoto, and the more prosperous it is during the war. I see. Kyochi nods. Many people. Not only businessmen, but also many rich people who looked like they had fled to the interior. At this time, the war was over, and they all took carriages and horses and headed west with a lot of property. Some even employ Konoha shinobi as guards. Asuma couldn't look away. Which girl do you like? Let your old man propose marriage. Kyochi ran up to him and joked. Asuma's face turned red immediately, and she quickly defended. No, I just feel sorry for them. Poor? They are not pitiful. These people have a lot of money and can hire people to protect them and run away together. There are more people who can't run away. Kyochi shook his head. This ninja world may not be able to survive by itself. How can there be leisure to care about these people? Asuma choked, unable to speak for a moment. Really? These guys are rich enough to at least get away with it. On the way, he didn't say much, but his eyes were observing these passers-by, and he gradually understood the meaning of Kyochi's words. Those who can go here are indeed mostly rich people. Bandits ran around during the war, and they had no money to hire ninjas. They were probably killed on the way. They were indeed luckier than many people. In contrast, many people can't help themselves, including ninjas. With the foot strength of the four of them, Kyoto will arrive soon. Minato, you go and meet the daimyo, I'm outside just in case. It is good. Minato will accompany the daimyo later, so of course he will go in and meet. He was too lazy to grab the limelight. Kyochi was playing with kunai, observing the surroundings outside the mansion. There is no danger in Kyoto. Generally, there will be no ninjas in the capital, otherwise the ninjas will assassinate the enemy daimyo every day, and no country will be able to stand it. This is the unspoken rule. But, if you leave Kyoto, you can't say for sure, maybe someone's betrayal and forbearance will not follow the rules and come out to make trouble, especially the current war is peaceful and the situation is chaotic. But Kyochi wondered, maybe third generation was fishing on purpose. Ms. Kyochi, can you? Shanshiro Aoba stammered and blushed a little. Obviously, he wants to ask Kyochi for advice. During the Chunin exam, although he voluntarily gave up and was cut off for Might Guy, he actually felt very uncomfortable. If you can't keep up with Might Guy, forget it. Can't compare to Obito, which is hard to accept. In school, Obito's nickname has always been the tail of the crane, although this is largely due to Obito's extremely poor cultural grades and hindering him. Yamashiro Aoba really doesn't like it. However, he's not even as good as Obito. On the day of the exam, Obito ran with Might Guy, he couldn't catch up at all, he was like a fool in the back, and he felt ashamed when he thought about it afterwards. On a mission today, when he saw Kyochi, he thought of the days when he was in ninja school, and couldn't help but ask for advice. But, afraid of Kyochi admonishment. What are you afraid of? I won't eat you again. Sit down. Kyochi patted the stone pier on the side. Aoba Yamashiro sat down. Asuma is a little envious, the teacher is not so gentle when chatting with him, as for Obito. He doesn't know what it's like to have a good chat with Kyochi. Especially after graduation. Basically, meeting Kyochi is definitely not a good thing, but knowing that Kyochi takes care of himself. It's very contradictory. Your performance in the Chunin exam was actually very good. If it wasn't for your lack of strength, you would have a chance this time. Teacher. What about me? Obito will not be sleepy after hearing the Chunin exam. He just finished speaking. The other three looked over at the same time, their eyes. He didn't speak, but it was extremely insulting. You. What do you mean? Obito was furious. Obito. As long as you listen to Aoba's command, you will not be eliminated due to the strength of your team. It can be said that Aoba is dragged down by you. It's because I'm not strong enough to keep up with them. Aoba Yamashiro quickly explained. Look at people. Kyochi smiled. Obito was very angry, but he couldn't find a reason to refute. Seeing Aoba's expression, Asuma quickly said, Teacher, you haven't said anything about Aoba yet. There's no rush, there's still some talk on the way, but I'm sure I'm free now, so I'll just say a few words. Actually, Kyochi was remembering just now. He couldn't remember Shanshiro Aoba's abilities. Now remember the part. Ravens. After thinking for a while, he said, I remember that your family raises crows, and you have your own secret technique? Yes. Aoba Yamashiro nodded. Have you considered the crow illusion? Kyochi asked. He vaguely remembered that the illusion of Mountain City Greenleaf was not weak, and Do's illusion couldn't knock him down at that time, and he could directly read the memory. It can be seen that he has a strong mental power. Illusion. Yes, the crows of your family are very good. Why don't you develop more techniques to match the crows? Secondly, you should also improve your physical skills, otherwise it will be too slow. Yamashiro Aoba is very similar to Kyochi. Everything, but not much. But with the help of the system in the books of the Senju family and third generation, Kyochi has gradually made up for many shortcomings. In addition to rewards, Kyochi also improves his physical skills every day. Mountain City Aoba did not. His positioning of himself is more about auxiliary functions such as intelligence gathering and cover. Very clear. However, the current level of physical skills is too bad, worse than Obito, it is a shame. Furthermore, those who raise crows don't play illusion cosplay. Think about it. The most terrifying thing about being a ninja is to be satisfied with the status quo and stop moving forward. Kyochi patted him on the shoulder. Then, get up and face the daimyo mansion. Minato came out. Naturally, the daimyo didn't set off immediately after meeting. He still had to make time to discuss travel plans. But the process was quick as it was notified in advance. In the afternoon, the daimyo sent someone to inform. It's time to go. Let's go first, be careful on the road, and scatter the crows. Kyochi signaled Yamashiro Aoba to follow him. There is no danger in Kyoto, the main crisis is outside the city. A great name is very honorable. But this is in terms of Kyoto. Outside of Kyoto, there will always be accidents, otherwise there will be no 12 guardians. Aoba Yamashiro nodded and followed. Out of town. Thousands of crows scattered, and each of them became the eyes and ears of Chingye in the mountain city, looking around for information. Kyochi is more direct. Stretching out his fingers on the ground, Chakra's perception spread out, and the general situation around him was basically clear. There is no danger at the moment. Teacher, there is no one at the moment. Well, the surrounding area is still safe, mainly in the follow-up area. Although I also have the ability to perceive, I can't monitor it all the time. In this regard, I still have to rely on your crow. Clear. They first went out of the city to check in. Not long. the daimyo's team left the city from Kyoto and came out. This daimyo was quite young. After leaving Kyoto, his eyes scanned his surroundings, and he quickly noticed the abnormal number of crows in the sky. He just looked closely and didn't ask any more questions. But, seeing Kyochi in the distance, a figure appeared in his mind, and asked with a smile, "Minato Jonin, who is that ninja?" "Your Excellency, his name is Kyochi Kanda, and he is a newcomer Jonin from Konoha, and his strength is not inferior to mine." Namikaze Minato was on the side, answering him with all his heart. The daimyo nodded slightly. "Not Senju? Strange." He frowned slightly, took a few glances, and asked again, "But the descendant of Senju? Grandma Kyochi is in the line of Tobarama-sama." Namikaze Minato continued. The daimyo came to a sudden. Sure enough, it is indeed Senju's lineage. He knew that Kyochi was sweeping around to prevent ninjas from attacking him, so he didn't ask Minato to call Kyochi to take a closer look. But, with that silver hair and back, people can't help but think of second Hokage at a glance. He couldn't help sighing, and then seemed to be excited. Second Hokage is a hero. I didn't expect that he would have descendants who became ninjas. It's really gratifying. Does Minato know who his teacher is? Kyochi relied on the Senju notebooks brought out by his grandmother and self-study books. Recently, he was recognized by Master Tsunade and contracted Shigulan. Except that he didn't change his surname, he can basically be regarded as a Senju family. Minato didn't answer directly, but in his words, the meaning has been revealed. There are no teachers in Kyochi, all rely on self-study. The daimyo seemed to be just asking casually, and after hearing it, he just sighed. A hero is born as a boy. Afterwards, he closed the curtain and didn't ask any more questions. Get out of the way. A crow landed, and afterward, Aoba Yamashiro quickly caught up. Teacher, something is wrong. What did you find? Kyochi knew that the crow in Yamashiro Aoba must have discovered the problem. Aoba Yamashiro nodded. His crow is not strong in combat, but he is good at scouting, which is also a skill passed down by the Shanchung family. After hearing this, Kyochi probably understood. Not so obvious clues, a string of footprints along the river. But, on the banks of the deep mountains and rivers, they walked along the river again, with intermittent footprints. This must be vigilant. Not around, maybe still ambushing in front, or hiding in the river, cutting off my perception and detection with secret techniques. Kyochi said after probing for a moment. Chakra's perception is not invincible, and there are many secret techniques that can be avoided. But, he thought about it, and a smile appeared on his face. Don't worry, I'm not afraid at all if the opponent is a Kirigakure ninja. Water style. I am familiar with this. Kyochi's shadow clone has been researching the mist shinobi technique. After getting the assassination technique of Dance of the Crescent Moon, Kirigakure's mist shinobi assassination routine was basically figured out by him. He has confidence. Together in the fog, you can be stronger than the opponent in the fog. They both pretended not to see it. The team moves on. The daimyo has been looking at the surrounding environment. Seeing the prosperity of the fire country on the road, he feels much happier. From the scene in front of us, it can be seen that the Kingdom of Fire is thriving and recovering extremely well. But, he was still looking ahead secretly. Kanda Kyochi. Senju. Although the surname has not been changed, the Senju bloodline recognized by Tsunade is amazing enough. There are many descendants of Senju, but can it be recognized? Is there still today? It's not that Tsunade is unwilling, but that Senju's integration into Konoha is the ancestral system established by the two Hokages of Senju Hashirama and Senju Tobarama, which cannot be changed at all. It must be extraordinary for this young man to be recognized. His face was calm, but his thoughts were mixed. At this time, there was a scream in front, and the frame stopped. Minato Jonin. Daming poked his head out, and saw that the surrounding area was gradually filled with fog, and his face instantly turned pale. Although he is not a ninja, he still knows some famous ninjutsu. For example, this mist shinobi technique. As a daimyo, he is most afraid of this method. The fog is so thick that he can't see the real scene at all. Minato, Asuma and Obito gathered around the carriage, ready to fight. There are people who are not afraid of death. Ahead. A dead body floated in the river, and blood flowed, staining the surroundings red. Mist shinobi ninja. Instantaneous body technique, sword drawing technique, beheaded him directly. Teacher, the forehead protector has scratches. It doesn't mean anything, you look at the corpse, pay attention to the enemy's sneak attack, and I will chase them. Kyochi disappeared after saying that. Aoba Yamashiro was very nervous. Mist shinobi technique, he really didn't understand it deeply. When Kyochi left, his palms were sweating, for fear that he would be attacked by surprise. Actually, in the dark, there are indeed mist shinobi ninjas watching. He wanted to wait for the opportunity to assassinate the daimyo, but now Kyochi left and there was only one child left. This kid is probably a scout ninja. He weighed for a long time. In the end, he quietly drew his sword and slashed towards the mountain city of Qingye. However, when he just came out of the water and made a surprise attack on the mountain city of Qingye, he felt a sudden pain in his neck. Blood splatter. He covered his neck, his eyes blank. What's the situation? He couldn't wait for an answer. Aoba Yamashiro was too shocked to speak. The mist shinobi ninja just now almost ran into the invisible knife by himself. If it wasn't for the soft sound of water afterwards, he almost thought that the other party had committed suicide. Mist shinobi technique strong, but not invisible. How did the teacher do it? Incredible. While Yamashiro Aoba was shocked, she secretly breathed a sigh of relief. The teacher did not give up on him, at this time. The secret mist shinobi ninja had no time to pay attention to Yamashiro Aoba, and the only remaining mist shinobi ninja was terrified. Kyochi's methods are too weird. In his mind, he couldn't help but think of second Mizukage back then. Very similar illusion. Terrible. He knew that his operation would be impossible to succeed, and he already had the intention of retreating, so he quietly formed a seal in the river at this time. Boom. The waves were so violent that a shark devoured the two bodies in an instant. He himself fled along the river, however. As soon as he moved for a while, he felt that the whole river was in turmoil. Next moment, the section of the riverbed where he was located actually rose directly. Earth-style earth flow wall. However, the range of your soil flow wall is too big. Who is escorting the daimyo this time? The strength is simply outrageous. He cursed inwardly. The next moment, he was forced to act. 2 people were killed, and 1 person fled. The thick fog gradually dissipated with no one to maintain it. So, the daimyo saw the process clearly. What ninjutsu is this? The whole river seems to rise up, and the river flows backwards and sweeps around. Others are stupid. Never seen such ninjutsu. It should be the earth flow wall. The corner of Minato's mouth twitched. Although the scale looks very similar to the Tuliu city wall, from the outside of the Tuliu wall, it should be the Tuliu wall. Only, this scale is too outrageous. Is this the earth flow wall? Daming was stunned for a long time, unable to speak for a moment, then his heart was full of admiration and emotion. As expected of a descendant of Senju, forced out of the opponent, Kyochi quickly formed a seal, and the water around his body condensed, turning into a dragon in an instant. Mist Shinobi Jonin was dumbfounded. His ninjutsu was instantly dissipated, while the opponent's water dragon didn't do any damage, and rushed towards him. Nima. Who are the Mist Shinobi ninjas? Why your water style is stronger than mine? He can't understand. At this moment, how could he have the time to think too much? The young man in front of him was obviously not a good stubble, and at such a young age, Konoha had such a genius, he must bring the information back. Before the fog cleared completely, he used the fog to avoid it, but Ishin was going to run away. However, not long after the fog disappeared, he sensed something was wrong. That illusion. He pulled out the kunai in an instant. When? There was a crisp sound. Sure enough, there is a knife. He was frightened for a while, and had to disperse the fog. Konoha's ninja appeared. At this moment, he had no intention of fighting Kyochi at all, he just wanted to escape and take the information out. He made seals while running. He fell on the water, clapped with one hand, and 5 sharks rushed out. 5 food sharks. Kyochi thought of the torn corpse just now. Kisame can commit suicide with ninjutsu, this person may not be able to. Forget it. It's good to get the corpse. Kyochi gave up on the idea of being captured alive. The next moment, the knife was out of its sheath. The knife flashed. The light was dazzling, and he knew immediately that something was wrong, so he quickly escaped into the water and formed a seal to resist with water barrier. However, the knife is approaching, cut it. Wind-style swordsmanship cuts through the river, creating an inch of vacuum. Blood stained the river, and corpses surfaced. So strong. The daimyo's eyes lit up. He is not a ninja, but it is not difficult to see from the momentum and scale that Kyochi is very strong, and Kyochi is definitely not very old. Such a genius. If you can win over. Many thoughts arose in his mind. Namikaze Minato made Shadow Clone appear beside Yamashiro Aoba in an instant, but unfortunately the 2 corpses were already fragmented, only the one killed by Kyochi was relatively well preserved. Yamashiro Aoba returned to the queue, his crow did not come back, but was monitoring the surroundings. The team continued to move forward, and Kyochi communicated with Minato's clone. They originally planned to blow up the bridge before attacking. When I crossed the bridge, I sensed a subtle chakra breath below. After shooting, someone was hiding. Kiyoshi took out a detonator. This is what he found under the bridge. Minato looked serious. All three have scratches on their forehead protectors, which is usually a symbol of rebellion, but obviously, the three of them were not. Which family rebelliously troubles the daimyo? Isn't that courting death? It's a good thing you kept a corpse. Minato took a deep breath. These three are dead men, not afraid of death at all. If they kill the daimyo, there will be temporary civil strife in the Fire Nation. At that time, not only Kirigakure will declare war, but Iwagakure and Cloud Shinobi Village, who have recuperated for many years, will also wait for the opportunity. Now how can Konoha have the ability to fight the three villages alone? Kirigakure is really vicious. There may be many spies from Kirigakure in our land of fire, and they have planned for a long time. But Kiyoshi felt more and more that third generation may have done it on purpose. The name is unknown. Will Mist Shinobi do it? Obviously impossible. Now even if only the corpse is obtained, it is still precious information. Well, I'll send the body back immediately for Anbu to examine, and hope there are still memories left. Namikaze Minato uses Flying Thunder God and sends the scroll back to Konoha. They move on. On the way, Aoba of Yamashiro found many traces, and Kiyoshi also found some sneaky ninjas, but they were located in a remote place, not close, and they retreated as soon as they entered the range. It's hard to kill like this. Kiyoshi wouldn't bother with that. But obviously, there are many Anbu from other villages hiding in the land of fire. There is no way. Every country is like this, each has its own spies, and information like the daimyo's dispatch really cannot be concealed from others. However, all this is a harbinger of the coming war. Not long after the war with Sanagakure ended, Iwagakure and Kirigakure may have to fight again. After crossing the bridge, there are no enemies behind. After confirming the safety, the daimyo said to stop and rest first. Kiyoshi and the others had no choice but to obey orders. But during this period, the daimyo wanted to see him. Kiyoshi didn't want to meet the daimyo at first. The daimyos in this period were very young and looked very gentle, but they actually had their own ambitions. If not, there would be no Guardian 12 warriors behind them. I'm not Asuma, getting involved with him would be troublesome. The daimyo sat in the sedan chair. When Kiyoshi got there, he lifted the curtain and looked at it, and then asked, "Are you a descendant of second Hokage?" That's right. Kiyoshi didn't deny it. His grandma is very similar to Senju Tobarama, and before the branch house, she also agrees with Senju Tobarama's concept more, and belongs to Senju Tobarama's subordinates. And Kanda's family biography is also Tobarama's stuff. I have admired second Hokage since I was a child. Many people think that first Hokage is great. In my opinion, second Hokage is equally great. Without him, there would be no Konoha. The daimyo said with emotion. Clearly, he wanted to get closer to Kiyoshi. If it was Tsunade in front of him, it might be Senju Hashirama who is boasting. So, Kiyoshi just smiled. The Senju clan is gone. The glory belongs to the past Senju, it has nothing to do with me. With enough strength, the glory of Senju may not be reappeared on you. It's up to Master Tsunade. If Master Tsunade wants to restore the glory of Senju, of course I have a duty to do so. Kiyoshi was noncommittal. After hearing this, the daimyo was silent for a moment, then nodded. He put down the curtain and didn't bother with the topic anymore, but casually asked about age and level, and then asked Kiyoshi to tell a story about the mission experience. After resting enough, I signaled everyone to set off again. After that, he didn't look for Kiyoshi again. The task was led by Minato, so when he returned to the village, Kiyoshi stopped following him and called Asuma and the others to eat ramen. Aoba Yamashiro was a little cautious. He wanted to treat him, but was rejected by Kiyoshi. He can still afford ramen. Asuma was absent-minded, eating noodles, but his mind was full of images of Kiyoshi and daimyo. What did the teacher talk to the daimyo about? Very curious. Okay, everyone, go back and exercise more. After this mission is over, you may not be so free later. Everyone should be mentally prepared. Kiyoshi stretched. Asuma thought of the teacher asking himself to study the Mist Shinobi technique. Combined with today's, he understood a little, and asked in a low voice, "Teacher, will the east side call?" It's not good for now, but it's already very restless. War is coming. The atmosphere was tense for a moment. Asuma thought of Kiyoshi's sword-cutting sword. Although he had no intention of practicing swordsmanship, he also understood that there was a big gap between his own strength and his teacher's. It's also wind-style ninjutsu, which he didn't even master Feion thoroughly. Work harder. Teacher, Obito just opened his mouth, but he lacked confidence. He feels that Kiyoshi doesn't want to see him. So, I opened my mouth, a little afraid to speak. Obito, you don't have to work hard. Read more books when you have time, especially tactics, coordination and combat thinking. There are fewer enemies in missions. A teacher can save you and cover you, but it can't be done in the battlefield. Kyochi said seriously. Before becoming mentally retarded, Obito still has some remarkable places. But just this brain. It doesn't matter whether you open your eyes or after you open your eyes, you can't turn the corner. Fortunately, it's not my subordinate. After hearing this, Obito's face sank when he thought of his own performance in the Chunin exam, knowing that he was indeed not good enough in tactics, and that it was easy to do bad things on the battlefield. But where does he have such books? The Uchiha guard should have this kind of book. Asuma reminded. Obito was stunned for a moment, before hesitating to speak. Come back and find me. I'll find you a basic book. I don't ask you to understand tactics and be able to command. At least you must know how to fight on the battlefield and how to cooperate with your teammates. Kyochi knew his difficulty. Guard? It is impossible for Obito to join the guards. I am afraid that in Uchiha, there are not many people who want to see him except Shisui, and he grew up with his grandma. It is a ghost to get such books. But he didn't say it directly either. Obito looked at Kyochi gratefully. Okay, go back and hurry up. If war really breaks out, let alone promote to Chunin, it is possible to quickly promote to Jonin. Kyochi gave a word of encouragement. The Chunin before him was promoted because of the war. The promotion mechanism in wartime is completely different from that in peacetime. If it was the era of 12 Shaoqiang, he might still be a genin now. Certainly. This is based on the strength of the predecessor. For now, Kyochi is an elite jonin out and out, whoever comes has nothing to say. Daimyo came to Konoha, really curious. Although he has been to Konoha since he took office, but in recent years there have been frequent wars, he still returns here for the first time. The daimyo obviously has ideas of his own. The previous conversation, combined with the Guardian 12, Kyochi estimated that the daimyo had the idea of building his own ninja army, and he talked to himself before in order to recruit himself. But this is such a big hole. Unless he is the son of the third generation, if he stepped into such a big hole, he would not be able to achieve anything when he returned to Konoha. Although Kyochi has no idea about Hokage's position, he has some ideas about Konoha, otherwise he wouldn't be able to devote himself to Shisui and Asuma. So, only fools go to the daimyo's side. He went back to his house, only to find Asuma waiting at the door. This kid, all right. Kyochi didn't say anything, and opened the door to beckon him in. Asuma chuckled. After entering the house, Asuma scratched her head and said shyly, "Teacher, I'm just curious. What did you and your daimyo talk about?" "It's nothing. I asked about Senju and my grandmother, it's just trivial things." Kyochi didn't elaborate. He glanced at Asuma. This kid seems to have his own thoughts on daimyo so much. So, he said again. Don't think about it, the name has nothing to do with you, and you don't want to get in touch with him too much. Teacher, does the daimyo have thoughts about you? Asuma asked in a low voice. After thinking about it later, he understood the purpose of the big name. Stop and rest. What a rest, it was clearly for Kyochi. Don't ask. If you ask, you don't understand. I can lead people to fight in Konoha and avoid more deaths. When I go there, I can only protect one person. What's the point? Indeed. Asuma understood in seconds. The teacher is Jonin in Konoha, and he is highly regarded. What can he do if he goes to the daimyo? Train your own ninja troops? Unrealistic. Although Asuma can't tell the reason with his current vision, he vaguely feels that this kind of idea is stupid and impossible to realize. In this case, it is better to stay in Konoha. And not just the teacher, as the teacher said, there is no need to contact the daimyo himself. I can't do anything. The daimyo is important, but what is more important is not the individual, but the Konoha and even the entire country of fire. The daimyo and Hokage are dead and there are successors, but if the national collective is gone, there is really nothing. Will of fire? If it's the will of fire, Asuma thinks he can identify with it. Teacher, I'm going to practice Feion. Go. Kyochi waved his hand. After Asuma learned Feion, she immediately fell in love with it. Now that the exam is over, she puts down the practice of wind style and fire style ninjutsu, and concentrates on practicing Feion ninjutsu. Kyochi didn't care. Jebi really suits Asuma. He made a shadow clone and sent the clone to Tsunade's house, while he sat on a chair and began to read the Konoha Ryu swordsmanship notes for second generation. Wind style is integrated into swordsmanship, and it has been effective recently. The move that killed Mist Shinobi Jonin was the result of combining the vacuum sword with Iai Zan. But my strongest is water style, earth style. Earth style can't be integrated, but water style second generation is also a master, and there should be records in this regard. There really are. Water blade cut. Although it is used in conjunction with kunai, the knife technique can also be used. But, so is power. Still have to change. See if we can integrate the high-pressure technique of water-severing wave, compress and condense the water-style chakra multiple times, and release the high-pressure water blade with a sword. Kyochi pondered. Very difficult. Because compressing chakra is technical work, it requires extremely high chakra control ability, and integrating swordsmanship in Muji requires even higher requirements. But it's not a big problem, just try to overcome it slowly. After reading this, he glanced at the system panel by the way. What he said just now seems to have earned a reward from Asuma. Complete the Will of Fire, teaching, evaluation, excellent. Reward. Wind-style chakra mode Will of Fire teaching? Kyochi was at a loss. He just explained a few words to Asuma, without mentioning the Will of Fire. What did this kid come up with? Forget it, it's not important, let's talk about this technique. Kyochi thought about it, but didn't bother. Brainstorming the Will of Fire is better than brainstorming weird things and finally going to the daimyo. He received his reward. After merging the memory, Kyochi froze for a moment. This pattern. Not bad, because he thought of the Earth Spear. The only problem with the Earth Spear is that it is afraid of the attack of Lightning-style chakra, but Lightning-style is restrained by Wind-style. If you turn on Wind-style chakra mode, you can use Wind-style chakra to protect the Earth Spear. At that time, even Lightning-style won't hurt him so easily. The name is in place, but the third exam is not going so fast. These days are for ninja recovery. In addition, the third generation will hold a secret meeting. Inside the Hokage building, Kyochi and Minato sat in the meeting room, waiting for everyone to arrive. Not long. A voice sounded outside the door. Minato-kun, Kyochi-kun, I didn't expect you two to be here. Master Orochimaru. Kyochi stood up at the same time as Minato. Orochimaru has arrived. This guy was as silent as a snake, and they didn't feel his presence until they were not far from the door. Orochimaru came in and sat down. Then, third generation appeared. This meeting. Hiruzen, why didn't you notify us of the meeting? Utatane Kaharu, Mitokado Homura. Kyochi looked at third generation speechlessly. How did you recruit these two? Third generation sighed softly and shook his head slightly. He didn't shout. Kyochi gets it. Some flies smelled the smell of blood and couldn't wait to come to the ground to drink blood. He sneered from the bottom of his heart, but he didn't say anything on his face, followed Minato to get up and salute, and then sat down to ignore them. Third generation had no choice but to point to the empty space. Utatane Kaharu came in and said, Hiruzen, I heard you want to unban forbidden technique on a small scale? Not all, some forbidden technique, third generation said. Cannot be done. Mitokado Homura said anxiously, most forbidden techniques are too dangerous and harmful to themselves, and some involve ethical issues. Opening forbidden techniques is harming them. Orochimaru smiled and said nothing, his eyes flicked back and forth between the two of them and third generation. Hiruzen, we are all old friends. Back then, the teacher personally included many spells into the sealed book. You know this. Isn't this against the teacher's instructions now? Utatane Kaharu pressed Sarutobi Hiruzen again with second generation. They were both old and stubborn. Sarutobi Hiruzen sometimes suffers from headaches, so he didn't inform the two of them to come to this small meeting, but he still came uninvited. Third generation sighed and said, the teacher has studied a lot of forbidden techniques in his life, some of which he has not memorized, and the remaining parts must be hoped that we can teach them as appropriate. Master third generation is right. Kyochi chimed in just in time, quietly kicking Minato at the same time. Minato understood, and agreed together. The forbidden technique cannot be abused, but I don't think it's a problem to promote it on a small scale, especially Jonin. Everyone has enough judgment to decide whether to use the forbidden technique. Orochimaru sat across from them. At this moment, he looked at Kyochi with interesting eyes. Originally, Orochimaru thought that this was a meeting to beat himself, but now it is not. Open forbidden technique. It's not easy for these two boys to convince the old stubborn third generation. But convince third generation, there are two more. He glanced at the two people beside him, the corners of his mouth slightly raised. Kyochi Kanda, I know it's you who promoted it this time, and we've also seen your breath activation technique, which is indeed very useful, but do you know that this kind of ninjutsu will damage lifespan? Utatane Kaharu turned around and went straight for Kyochi. Lifespan. Sitting in an office is not dangerous, so naturally you have to worry about lifespan. Fighting on the front line, wandering between life and death all the time, how can you control your lifespan? Kyochi sneered and said, use the activation technique to reduce lifespan, and breath to reduce lifespan, so just don't live. You. Are you mocking us for not daring to die? We also came from the battlefield. Udatane Kaharu's expression changed instantly. These words are heartbreaking. Well, Kyochi didn't mean that. Third generation came out to smooth things over. Hiruzen, don't cover up. Kid, we all came from the battlefield, and we all experienced life and death. It's not as bad as you think. Mitokado Homura was equally dissatisfied. Oh? Nidame has become Hokage and is still fighting on the front line. Lord Third Generation also came to command in person, but you just became consultants. You haven't been to the front line in these years, have you? Kyochi was not at all polite. These two old immortals, he has long been unhappy with them. Although the third generation was incompetent, they were not ambiguous when they were desperate, so the two of them were different. Obviously it's just a consultant, and it's the same as Hokage. If you die without them, you will know you are blind. The voice just fell. Boom. With a sound, they both slapped the table and stood up, angrily said, "Are you talking to seniors?" Just finished. Boom. Another bang. A figure directly broke in through the window from the outside, and the entire window was smashed to pieces. What's wrong? Damn, I think Kyochi is right. Familiar chakra airflow. Kyochi and Minato turned their heads with astonishment. Orochimaru laughed instead. Tsunade, unexpectedly, she came back. The third generation was even more astonished. Udatane Kaharu was stunned for a moment, then he became angry and said, "Tsunade, you are so rude. We talk about reason with you, you talk about rules with us, I talk about skills with you, and you talk about politeness with me. There is nothing to talk about. I saw it through when I promoted medical ninjas." Tsunade sneered, pulled a chair carelessly, and sat down beside Kyochi. She stood on the table and said bluntly, "Since Nidame's death, we and the teacher have been fighting on the front line and commanding. Have you ever left the village? Have you experienced life and death?" You. Mitokado Homura was so angry that his hands were shaking. Past. Who doesn't have a past with honor? Everyone has experienced life and death. You people talk about it every day. Just lie to yourself and tell yourself that you have worked hard before and you can enjoy happiness. Tsunade leaned back in his chair with a wanton grin on his face. She came back, but never came back. I came back just to support Kyochi. I didn't plan to stay in Konoha much, so. I don't care about your face. Let's talk when you're cool. Say all the things that were difficult to say before. The third generation understood it, so it was a headache. Now it is not to say, and it is not to say. Tsunade, you can't say that. The front line and the rear are all contributing to the village. Besides, we are not afraid of death. A cold voice sounded. Subsequently, Danzo enters through the door. Kyochi glanced at it, then was a little surprised in his heart. Now Danzo, without a cane, looks like that, but it still feels insidious. Did you contribute? I only saw Konoha being attacked again and again, surrounded by ninja villages outside, and fighting and calculating each other inside. Apart from making a disgusting person, what else can you do? Tsunade fired straight away. Kyochi was in admiration. I'm afraid it's been a long time. The role of the root is not something you can understand. Danzo is not so easily provoked. Oh. The effect is so great, Konoha keeps going downhill? Tsunade was very rude, and he hammered third generation together, which was crazy. The smile on Orochimaru's face became brighter and brighter, and he finally said, "Everyone, putting aside the credit of the consultant, it's not a big deal anyway. The problem now is the promotion of forbidden technique, right? It's so yin and yang." Kyochi kind of wanted to laugh. This word. The credit and reputation of the two are not as important as this topic? That's right. Because it is true. Udatane Kaharu's face turned green with anger. That's right, it's not worth my time. Let's talk about forbidden technique promotion. Tsunade is really not giving face. She finished and patted Kyochi. Sister helped you get rid of all these miscellaneous things, it's time for you to go. Kyochi stood up and said, "Of course, the forbidden technique cannot be promoted on a large scale, but in a small area, it is definitely no problem to choose a forbidden technique that does not cause so much damage, and implement it under voluntary conditions, such as breathing activation technique. Your breathing technique should have a more advanced version, right?" Danzo asked. "Oh? You are all worried about the lifespan of the low-end version, but now you are not afraid?" Tsunade sneered. She knows this group of people too well. The so-called objection is just to put forward their own requirements and let the proposal be carried out according to their ideas. At least that's the case with Danzo. Third generation stroked his forehead with a headache, first the two advisors, then Tsunade. Today's meeting is really out of date, he wanted to talk about it another day. But the others obviously had no such intentions. Kyochi was so lazy that he skipped Danzo's question and said, Respiratory activation in the first 2 gates of 8 gate are of the type with less damage, and they can save lives at critical moments. 8 inner gates is not easy. How difficult is the breathing activation technique? Orochimaru thought for a moment, then asked. Together with forbidden technique, his research is much deeper than that of Kyoshi. Is such a small price worth it? It's almost a level difficulty, and there is no chakra restriction. Most jonin can master it. It's really good, and it can save lives at critical moments. Orochimaru nodded. This kind of technique with low difficulty and average cost is not considered a forbidden technique in his eyes, and he is very clear about Kyoshi's intentions. On the battlefield, such an outbreak of forbidden technique may save his life. What about the 8 inner gates? Third generation asked. The first gate in the 8 gates can control one's own strength 100%, and the second gate can overload the body's energy to restore physical strength, and it is also a life-saving ability. Kyoshi explained. The third generation actually knew about it a long time ago. After all, he has seen the specific content of 8 inner gates in the breath activation technique, and now he is just asking for Udatain Kaharu and the others. After all, Tsunade is just too murderous. Seeing everyone looking at him, Udatain Kaharu looked ugly, and said, I still think that we should not draw conclusions too hastily. She can't say nothing, even against Tsunade. How did my second grandfather teach you 2 such geniuses? Under your wise leadership, Konoha's strength has become stronger and stronger. You must know that in the past, Tsunagakure had absolutely no chance to be defeated by us. Tsunade smiled, compliment, but her words almost made Udatain Kaharu and Mitokado Homura vomit blood. It all sounds good, but when added up, it doesn't sound right no matter how it sounds. Tsunagakure has no chance of defeat? Really? Because before, Tsunagakure didn't dare to stretch out his fangs to Konoha. I think it's Mr. Third Generation who dragged down Konoha. If the 2 advisors are allowed to manage Konoha's affairs together, Konoha will definitely not become the target of many big countries. Kyoshi smiled. This time Third Generation was also speechless. Why are you still taking me with you? And are you really complimenting? Third Generation has a headache. It's impossible to handle these 2 together. Little devil, you. Mitokado Homura was out of breath with anger. Kyoshi seems to be complimenting, but actually mocking them both for being stubborn and pedantic. Let the 2 of you go. Konoha will be at the same level as other big countries. These 2 techniques are indeed useful. I am in favor of lifting the ban, but Konoha needs a more complete version. Danzo said lightly. Master Danzo, Konoha does not have the right to steal other people's secret arts, whether it is my breathing technique or the 8 inner gates of the predecessors. I propose to lift the ban and promote it because I want Konoha to become stronger. This is not the reason for your blackmail. I don't have to promote it, and I have no loss to myself, or do you think I am the kind of person who loves Konoha more than myself? Kyoshi squinted slightly, staring at Danzo without fear. With his current strength, there is no need to be afraid of this old ghost. I have no such intentions. The Root organization has Konoha's toughest ninjas, who have made great contributions to Konoha. The old man is not for himself, but for Konoha. Danzo frowned. He found, this kid is hard to deal with. The words are sharp, and they are very clear about their positions and advantages. They are always pulling the third generation side and attacking their side. If this continues, not only will there be no benefit, but it will cause a commotion. For Konoha? Can you represent Konoha? Tsunade had a big smile on his face. This old dog. Opening Konoha and closing Konoha. What is it actually for, when others don't know? Everything Root does is for Konoha. Danzo said lightly. I've heard that the training organized by Root is very cruel. Every training session is not small, and the members almost wipe out their feelings. Master Danzo has this ability. Why not let the ninjas exercise their bodies from a young age? Everyone 8 gate. A bunch of 8 inner gates ninjas, even if they are not as good as Hashirama-sama, they can crush many ninja villages without any problem. If you can do this, why don't 8 inner gates give it to you? Kyoshi shrugged. It makes sense. Tsunade sings and harmonizes seamlessly. Obviously, it seems to be satirizing Danzo, but actually ridiculed Udatain Kaharu and Mitokado Homura so concerned about the safety of ninjas. Why does the Root organization ignore so many deaths every year? Oppressive rule. Orochimaru laughed when he heard that. A group of people use 8 gate, thanks to Kyoshi for figuring it out. But if it can be realized, such a team is indeed terrifying. Danzo's face turned black. At this time. Boom. With a loud bang, third generation exploded, and the table shattered. Okay. The quarrel ends here. Everyone is working hard for Konoha. There is no need to criticize each other. Third generation stopped drinking, and then looked at Udatain Kaharu and the others. Danzo, I have already made a decision to unban forbidden technique, and I was not prepared to listen to your opinions. You can leave. Hiruzen, even you. Udatane Kaharu was stunned. The words of third generation were so direct that she couldn't react and couldn't accept it for a while. Hiruzen, forbidden technique cannot be lifted at will. Mitokado Homura said anxiously. Kyochi is next to him, and he really wants to laugh. Danzo is looking for an added bonus, but... Little Konoha, there are two of you. Naidame was probably blind back then. I guess, as a Hokage, I should still have some power? Sarutobi Hiruzen's tone was serious. During this period of time, he has been reflecting on himself, thinking that some aspects of himself are indeed too conservative, and now the tree is in the most difficult moment. At this moment, 8 inner gates and respiratory activity should be opened to Jonin to enhance the strength of the team. Only by surviving can we be qualified to talk about life expectancy. Hiruzen, we didn't mean that. Mitokado Homura was stunned. He didn't understand that third generation was so persistent this time, and even put on an attitude that almost turned his face. Although, this time they did come uninvited. About forbidden technique, I will define which ones are allowed and which ones are not allowed to spread in research. If you let me know that you are secretly researching, even if it is my old friend or disciple, I will be merciless. Finalized. The words of the third generation directly defined the tone of this meeting, which cannot be questioned or changed. This is ninja. Kyochi thought to himself. It was not for nothing that Senju Tobarama valued Sarutobi Hiruzen back then. When it's time to be decisive, he does have a decisive side, but... It seems that there are not many times. This time third generation was annoyed. It can be heard from the words that he obviously knew some relationship between Orochimaru and Danzo, and this time it was just the fuse that triggered everything. Danzo remained expressionless, got up and left. He heard it. So, it's pointless to say more. Orochimaru's expression didn't change much, he was still smiling, even weird. This time the smile seemed to come from the heart. Old friend, what they said is right, we are too far away from the battlefield, maybe we should go to the front line to see more. Udatane Kaharu and Mitokado Homura left silently, and the scene was chaotic, but with the departure of the 3 elders, the atmosphere of the scene improved a lot in an instant. Teacher, this is you. You are Hokage, do you need them to guide you? Tsunade leaned back in the chair. Very casual, but she obviously respects third generation more than before. At least I didn't call the old man. I can't say that, everyone has different considerations, but... Maybe our considerations are no longer suitable for Konoha's future. Third generation sighed. After several years of treatment, Konoha has not become stronger, but has been weakening. However, Kyochi's methods belong to young people, but Konoha has been greatly improved in a short period of time. These days, he often thinks about it. Could it be that God really favors the Senju clan? The final conclusion is, it doesn't matter. He only needs Konoha to be stronger. Teacher, I have a different opinion about your idea. Part of the forbidden technique should be lifted, but the other part doesn't mean we have to give up. Orochimaru said, if the results of forbidden technique research are for prohibition, then why did Naidame study so many techniques back then? Orochimaru, this is my bottom line. Third generation is almost a showdown warning. Orochimaru was silent for a moment, then got up, bowed lightly and said, I understand, I still have some research to do. After this meeting, the teacher has made a decision, please come and let me know. Tsunade didn't speak, feeling a little depressed. Something is wrong with Orochimaru, she was right to be skeptical. But, she didn't understand why Orochimaru would do this. Tsunade knew him well. If he didn't want others to know, he would never have revealed such a big flaw. What is this picture? Everyone. Today's accident happened, and everyone's discussion was very emotional. I think we should come here first. The tone is set. Everyone can go back and think carefully. It's not too late to make a decision in a few days. Minato stood up and said, this atmosphere. So nervous. Okay, then temporarily suspend, Tsunade, you stay. Third generation waved wearily, motioning for the others to leave. After everyone leaves, Tsunade was quite impatient. Speak up if you have something to say, I'm leaving in a hurry. Can't you stay? I hope you can succeed the fourth generation. I am really old, but as a teacher, I also failed. Boom. What answered him was an even more broken conference table. Only a fool would be a Hokage. After Tsunade finished speaking, he jumped out of the window. Third generation sighed bitterly, he wants to step down. But, among the 3 disciples, he couldn't find a qualified successor. Even Tsunade was not particularly satisfied, because he vaguely knew what was wrong with Tsunade. Looking at it now, Tsunade's problem may not be as simple as he knows. Kyochi exits the building. Outside, he saw Tsunade falling from the window, and Shizune came running quickly in the distance. Miss Tsunade, aren't you up there? There's nothing to talk about with that old man. Let's go to the tavern. You won't go home until you're drunk. Tsunade was not at all polite. As she spoke, she waved her green robe and strode forward. Miss Tsunade, I didn't expect you to come. Little ghost, if I don't come, you will be eaten. Tsunade sneered. It's not that bad, it's just more troublesome. Kyoshi shook his head. Without Tsunade, 8-gate and respiration can be promoted, but it will take a while. It doesn't matter. When I came back this time, I also had a good time scolding, and I feel much more comfortable. Tsunade smiled. Utatane Kaharu, Mitokado Homura, and Danzo. 3 old guys. She wanted to rant before, but she never had the right opportunity. This time she found the opportunity. After a swearing, the 3 of them couldn't refute. Certainly. The performance of 3rd generation really surprised her. Only, she sighed softly, looked sideways, and asked, You said you want to study 100 healings mark, have you tried it? I tried it, but I can't say it was completely successful, I can only say that it is barely usable. Kyoshi talked about his 100 healings mark status. Tsunade pondered for a moment, but couldn't find any solution for a while. The veins between the eyebrows are too complicated. It is nonsense to want to change the direction of the context, but in terms of 100 healings mark, Kyoshi has almost done his best. That's all for now. The use of chakra you mentioned, I have a simple attempt, it is not difficult for me, but it may be very difficult to pass it on. Tsunade sighed. She knows Beihao technique as soon as she hears it. This is based on Tsunade's powerful chakra control ability and accumulation of medical knowledge. For someone else, even if they have the chakra control power, they may not be able to stably spread chakra all over the body. Step by step, you can learn other chakra mode first, such as Kyoshi said, wind-style chakra spread all over the body. Wind-style chakra mode. Tsunade froze for a moment, thought for a while, nodded and said, if you can reach our level step by step from simple to difficult, you still have a chance to learn, but the threshold is still very high. No way, ninjutsu with S-level difficulty was not created to popularize the public. Forbidden technique was never meant for popularization. Only a few of it are eligible to master. Now it is 8 inner gates, respiratory resuscitation technique. What's next? Danzo, we should stop Hiruzen. This matter has to be figured out slowly. Danzo was noncommittal. Utatane Kaharu and Mitokado Homura chattered a few more words before leaving unhappily. He narrowed his eyes, then sneered. There is a saying that is not wrong. Apart from talking, these 2 people don't know anything practical. After coming out, there are a lot of theories, why didn't you see any refutation just now? Fool. He body flicker technique left. Back in a research room, Danzo saw Orochimaru packing up his things. He frowned and said, Orochimaru, are you going to betray me too? Hee. Danzo, I'm just working with you, not loyal to you. Orochimaru sneered. Danzo had an unswerving look on his face, and he spoke a little angrily. You think you can go away? I know what I'm doing, and I hope someone can come out and stop me. Of course, the most important thing is that this experiment is meaningless, and I already have a better plan. Kanda Kyoshi. Danzo is usually calm and ruthless, but this time he obviously broke the defense, so he was very irritable. Maybe, anyway, my cooperation with you is over. Orochimaru turned to face Danzo. This time, he was serious. Danzo, shady people are not qualified to be Hokage. Hee. You must think yourself very noble now, right? No, me too. Danzo didn't understand. This guy, did he think that if he stopped, Sarutobi would be able to let him go? He growled angrily in a low voice. You have no way of turning back. Only I can help you with that technique. I have a new idea. Danzo, don't expect me to take the blame for you. Master Tsunade, please act and heal my child. Moonlight in one tree. Kyoshi recognized him when he saw him. He was Moonlight Hayate's uncle. Yu Guang Haifeng's father died a few years ago, and Haifeng was raised by him since he was a child. Obviously, he came from Moonlight Gale. It is you. Tsunade sighed. The Moonlight clan. This family has grown since the 2nd generation period, and is now quite famous in Konoha. She naturally knows a few people, and Yu Guang Kazuki is one of them. Master Tsunade, my elder brother's son Gaifeng has been ill since childhood, please help. Moonlight Kazuki begged hard. He found a lot of people. But in Konoha, no doctor said it could be cured, and the only hope was Tsunade. Tsunade hesitated. Her family knows her own affairs, and although she has a lot of theories, she will be frightened when she sees blood, and there is no way to operate on people. Kyoshi's heart skipped a beat. He also has some understanding of the state of Moonlight Gale. On the one hand, he had lung disease since childhood. On the other hand, it is his blood inheritance limit. Through escape. The superposition of the two made it difficult for his illness to improve, so that he was terribly weak at the age of 23. If not for this, even Baki might not be able to kill him. This is a talent. It is a pity to be tortured by illness. Master Tsunade, why don't you go and have a look first? Shizune couldn't help but said. Tsunade glared at her, and seeing Kyochi's similar expression, he sighed helplessly and said, Kazuki, I can't promise anything. Understand. Moonlight was overjoyed. Others have nothing to do, he can only place his hopes on Tsunade now, there is no more demanding. Medical trouble? In the entire ninja world, few dare to make trouble with Dr. Tsunade. The Moonlight Clan's land is not big, but the layout is very characteristic of the Moonlight Clan. Trees, moon imprints. After entering the gate, there are a few children practicing swords, most of them are practicing swinging, and only a few of them have mastered swordsmanship after entering the gate. The most talented one is naturally Moonlight Gale. But his physical condition is also the worst. Blast. Ichiki uncle, Kyochi-sensei. Moonlight Hayate heard the sound, and immediately looked over. Seeing that Kyochi was there, his eyes lit up immediately, and his condition seemed to be a little better. Your child is very good, Tsunade whispered. She could see that Moonlight Hayate respected Kyochi from the bottom of his heart, so they didn't even look at themselves. Before temporarily leading the class, I taught him. Kyochi explained. Haifeng heard the sound, and then looked at Tsunade beside him. Tsunade had already left the village when he was born, so Moonlight Hayate didn't recognize Tsunade at all. But the big word, gambling, was exposed on the clothes in his hand. He suddenly thought deeply, and bowed deeply. Master Tsunade. Just this little hobby, the whole world knows about it, right? Tsunade was speechless. She took a few glances at Moonlight Gale, then frowned slightly. As far as children are concerned, his condition is already quite serious. Go in and talk. Yes. After entering the house, she motioned for Moonlight Gale to sit down, and then began to make a careful diagnosis. Yuguang Kazuki's heart was hanging, and his face was nervous. Tsunade is his last hope. If even Tsunade can't do it. Do you have a blood succession limit? Yes. Moonlight Gale nodded. He awakened through the tunnel very early, so he was valued by his family, and he began to practice the crescent moon dance since he was a child. It's not difficult to cure your lung disease, but your problem comes from the blood inheritance limit. Every time you use the penetration, it will cause damage to your body, and sooner or later it will recur. Tsunade said. Moonlight Kazuki was dumbfounded after hearing this. So, can't use through escape. He looked at Gale and didn't know what to say for a while. So, I can't use blood to inherit the limit? Moonlight Gale was also stunned. That's right, if you don't need to escape, I can cure you. Tsunade nodded. She knew a little about the blood succession limit of the Moonlight Clan before, so she was able to make a quick decision. Actually, she had said the same thing to Yuguang Haifeng's father about this kind of problem. The results speak for themselves. Yuguang Yimu hesitated for a moment, looked at Haifeng and said, You decide for yourself, no matter what you decide, uncle will support you. Teacher, Gale was at a loss. He was the same age as Shisui, and although he was equally precocious, he was stunned when faced with such a choice. Ask me. This me. Kyochi wanted to refuse, but seeing Haifeng's hopeful and pleading face, his heart softened, and he sighed. Okay. Let me ask you first, is the blood inheritance limit of the Moonlight Clan, or swordsmanship? Moonlight Gale thought for a long time. Then, he said firmly, swordsmanship. Shueiji limit boundary is only an aid, and Konoha Ryu swordsmanship is the foundation of the strength of the Moonlight family. He faintly understood in his heart. Then why hesitate? As Kyochi said, he drew his sword and jumped away. In a blink, he has arrived above Moonlight Gale. Dance of the Crescent Moon? Moonlight Kazuki was surprised. Although there is no avatar interference, the essence of this sword is the same. Look for flaws. Then, assassinate with a sword from the blind spot. The dance of the three suns and the moon does not rely heavily on two-dun. The strongest point of two-dun lies in the detection of intelligence. It is unrealistic to prohibit its use, but unless you have to, don't use it. Kyochi said solemnly. Yes. Thank you very much for your teaching. Galewind bowed deeply. Tsunade looked at Kyochi with a half-smile, and then said out of nowhere. I can help you, but it's not me, but your teacher Kyochi who does the treatment. Do you still dare? Dare. Moonlight Gale did not hesitate. Then it's settled. Go to the hospital to register for surgery tomorrow morning. Yes. Thank you Tsunade-sama, thank you Kyochi-janin. Kyochi wanted to refute, but he knew why Tsunade did it, so it's really not good to tear it down now. That's all. Isn't it just surgery? Trifle. Not to mention. Just now, Moonlight Gale gave himself a wave of rewards. Moonlight Galewind regards you as a life mentor. Reward. Secret Sword Moonshadow. This is for nothing. Kyochi didn't expect that the kid would agree with him so easily. Can only say, thank you, out of the clanland of the Moonlight Clan. Kyochi-sama, Tsunade-sama has some minor problems and can't preside over the operation for the time being, so. I have a phobia. Shizune was still vague, but Tsunade said the reason directly. Hemophobia. Kyochi feigned surprise. After a while, he said, that's why you left the village. I am one of the Sanin, the leader of medical ninjas, but now I can't go to the battlefield. I can't use a scalpel. What's the use of staying in Konoha? Leave. At least no one knows that I am in this situation. Tsunade sighed. She left the village, and her illness was indeed a major factor. Have you considered fighting blindfolded? Kyochi said. Blindfolded? But I still know. Tsunade froze for a moment. What a genius you are. I'm mentally ill. I can't see blood. Can't I still feel it? You can deceive yourself with illusion. Kyochi continued. Tsunade felt that something was wrong, but also felt that there was a little truth. Combat with eyes closed, illusion deception. What the hell, there is no way to overcome it, so I can only escape and find another way. But it really makes sense. At least not seeing the blood and directly losing all combat power. But now the key is medical issues. Combat can be like this. What about treatment? She shook her head. The wind and rain are turbulent at the moment. If she really stays in the village, there is no possibility that she will not go to the battlefield. If she doesn't step up or take action to heal, what will the rest of the ninjas think? Revealing a hemophobia? This is also a great blow to the morale of the army. For battlefield treatment, it's enough to let the living slugs not share their vision, and it's enough for the wounded to give feedback on their condition. Can it still be like this? Tsunade is lost. Kyochi, this is all wrong, but Huobu has cooperated with her for a long time, and a simple injury report can still be done, so when she thinks about it carefully, it is really feasible. She took a few steps and came back to her senses. Your boy really has the gift of education, this kind of. How did you think of it? Tsunade served. The blood phobia was not cured, but the problem seemed to be resolved somewhat. It's weird. Certainly. The most difficult level is hypnosis, which Tsunade has to figure out by himself. She had a headache. Annoyance, go drink. The wine given last time was not enough. This time you must drink it to your heart's content. After drinking, go to gamble. Hee. I have saved a lot of money, enough money. Okay, we will accompany you. Kyochi smiled brightly. Shizune was puzzled. Doesn't Master Kyochi don't gamble? But Kyochi and Tsunade both went, so she had to keep up. After drinking, the group went to the casino, not long after. Tsunade walked out of the casino angrily. No fun. Gambling is one of her few pleasures these days. But when you have two hateful European emperors around you, and you keep losing, to the point where you need to borrow money, you can't feel the slightest happiness. Hateful. It must be that the two little ghosts have escaped. The next day, Kyochi and Tsunade came to the hospital early. It's not a time of war, the ninja's damage is not big, and the operating table is basically empty. If Tsunade hadn't been thinking about gambling, he could have come directly to arrange surgery yesterday afternoon. Tsunade, can these children watch outside? You know, medical ninjas need experience. If it was someone else, Tsunade would have rejected it long ago. But the one who spoke was Sarutobi Bawako, wife of third generation. Beside her, there are many children who are only about 10 years old, including Nohara Lin and Yuhihong. They are all children of the new generation who are willing to be medical ninjas. Tsunade shook his head and said, this time I'm not in charge, I'm only in charge of assisting Kyochi. The teacher is the chief knife? Yuhi's red eyes lit up. Her medical skills were taught by Kyochi, and Kyochi has performed several times before, but she has never had any idea of the teacher's medical level. Could it be that he's stronger than Master Tsunade? These children don't know the inside story, even Lake Biwa doesn't know much about it, so they are a little puzzled at this moment. But she knew that there must be something unspeakable in it. Lake Biwa quickly answered the question. With your guidance, it is not difficult for Kyochi to complete this operation, and it is more educational. Let the children watch it. Tsunade looked at Kyochi and said, you decide. No problem, let them watch, it's just a minor operation. Kyochi smiled. It was his first serious operation, but no matter what he said, he had to calm down at this time, otherwise the patient Yu Guang Gaifeng would be even more hopeless. Hayate, don't be afraid for a while, it's a minor operation, Trust the skills of the teacher and Master Tsunade. Moonlight Gale nodded heavily. Since there are so many people, Tsunade doesn't mind having more Shizune. So, in the operating room, Kyochi stood in the middle, Tsunade and the medical team were on the periphery. Cut a hole first. Clear. Kyochi seals, chakra knife emerges. Subsequently, with a light swipe, a hole appeared. Very narrow and small. Tsunade turned his head and glanced at Kyochi's hand. Secure a batch. She is relieved. This kind of surgery, as long as the surgeon's hand is steady and knows how to do it, basically there is no big problem. As for how to do it, doesn't this have oneself? She pointed out the process, and Kyochi performed the operation, and the process went very smoothly. However, gradually, she discovered, Kyochi actually doesn't need to be himself. Cut the wound, find the location of the lesion, and then seal the mudra, draw out the technique from the details. All in one go, she gradually became silent and did not speak. Sarutobi Biwa was also stunned. Is Kanda Kyochi so strong in medical ninjutsu? Hard to believe. But, Moonlight Gale's lung lesions were indeed being healed gradually, the accumulated virus and lesions inside were gradually cut off, taken out, and even. Be careful in this step, and your hands must be steady, otherwise it is easy to cut too much. Although it can be recovered, it will affect the patient to some extent. It is best to clear the virus, and excision is the last option. He still has time to explain. Outrageous. Tsunade feels that there is basically nothing to do here. Alright. The last trace of virus was drawn out. Kyochi waved for the others to finish. After the virus is drawn out, basically a medical ninja can handle the follow-up. He retracted his hand, froze for a moment, then looked sideways at Tsunade. Is there anything wrong? No, you've done a good job, even taking away my part. Tsunade smiled. She thought that Kyochi had enough conditions to complete it before, but after watching it for a while, she knew that she still underestimated. Kyochi can completely complete the operation alone, and with ease, otherwise he would not be able to perform the operation easily. At the same time, he also has the time to talk about his workflow. This guy. What a talent to be a teacher. She sighed for a while, then turned to the children. Kyochi's process actually omitted some steps, because he is strong enough to find the source of the disease quickly. You can't do it like this when you have surgery, understand? Yes. All of you here are medical ninjas, how can you not understand this? Some things can be seen with the eyes, but not necessarily with the brain and hands. This is the case with Kyochi's surgery. It's standard and perfect, but it's not something they can learn. Kyochi, I have a lot of books and case materials. If you need them, you can visit the hospital often. Sarutobi Bawako has a big smile. She is the wife of the third generation, and she knows more than ordinary people. Kyochi contracted Katsuyu Immortal, and has such superb medical ability. 2 ninjas who can heal in a large area. Excited just thinking about it. Kyochi, are you interested in being named in the hospital? As long as you give lectures and give advice from time to time, the salary is not a problem. Is this unnecessary? Kyochi was ashamed. Not a family, do not enter a door. Sarutobi Lake Biwa is quite difficult to deal with. If you find an opportunity, you will start digging. If you have not experienced many routines, you may not be able to withstand it. There are many advantages to coming to the hospital to be named, but it is also a lot of busy. It's not like now. Exercise, study, and study ninjutsu every day. As long as the money is enough. The main reason is that there are no rewards. Although he has just obtained the proficiency of the technique, medical ninjutsu is not Kyochi's main development direction. Practicing medical ninjutsu is just to learn such techniques as Beihao technique and ninja art, meiotic regeneration. Sarutobi Bawako has some regrets, but she also understands that Kyochi, as the team leader Jonin, is already very busy teaching 3 children and performing tasks. How can he have more free time? Tsunade takes him out of the hospital. When she walked out of the hospital, she said with emotion, I'm surprised that you would refuse. If you agree, in the long run, you will gain a great reputation in Konoha. My goal is not Hokage, why do you care about these? Kyochi shook his head. The strength of the ninja world is the last word, and the reputation and status are all false. What about Hokage? The 5 cages are stacked, and they can't beat Uchiha Madara. Tsunade agrees, but it's weird. Then what do you want to do? Being a teacher, teaching many talents, fundamentally makes Konoha stronger. Kyochi didn't hesitate. He said this set of words many times without any flaws. After hearing this, Tsunade couldn't help but smile. Teach a lot of talent? Let Konoha be fundamentally strong. The idea is beautiful. Unfortunately, without the support of Hokage, these are just rootless duckweed, which can be easily banned. Third generation is mostly qualified, but Konoha is surrounded by powerful enemies, just being qualified is not enough. Tsunade was thoughtful. Master Kyochi, do you have any tips for quickly mastering medical ninjutsu? Shizune chimed in. Experience. Watch more, learn more, exercise your chakra control ability more, so that you can have a steady hand and precise operation when performing surgery. If it is a minor, you must have enough chakra and a strong physique. Kyochi thought to himself. Shizune thought about it and couldn't help but sigh softly. Master Tsunade said that I, chakra, have limited talent for control. Although I can become a good medical ninja, it is difficult to learn her true skills. Just being a good medical ninja is pretty good. Kyochi stroked Shizune's hair. When Shizune was a child, she looked cute, especially when her hair was plucked. Master Kyochi. Okay, I won't touch your hair anymore. Speaking of which, if you really want to exercise your chakra control, you can try to control two techniques that don't conflict at the same time. Kyochi said. With that said, he performed a show. Earth spears, then wind-style chakra, then boom. Punch. The stones on the side of the road were directly crushed. If she could do it, she wouldn't come to ask you for advice. Tsunade was speechless. 3 techniques are used simultaneously. This is very high-end chakra control technology. It's just maintaining 2 kinds of techniques at the same time. What she can do is to complete the use of 2 kinds at the same time, and then upgrade to more than 3 kinds, step by step. Yes. Shizune nodded solemnly. No matter what, try it out. There are some proficiency bonuses for even simple teaching. Kyochi is not too little. It's just 2 or 3 sentences, it doesn't take much time, it's purely worthless business. Shizune, let's go clean up the house this afternoon, we are moving back. What? Shizune froze for a moment. Don't you live at Master Kyochi's house? Kanda's house is not big, but there are still rooms for 3 people. She slept very well yesterday, and she thinks it's just a temporary stay, and there is really no need to clean up Tsunade's house. Let you be together. Why are you talking so much? Otherwise, you have been living in his house. Tsunade glared at her. It's not impossible. Shizune said weakly. Let's live with me. It's actually quite boring to be alone in the house. Besides, there are always people on your side. Tsunade was stunned for a moment, immediately sensed the investigation, and then became speechless. Good guy. Open shadow clone to learn, worthy of you. This kid. Why are there always surprises? Tsunade was speechless. Okay, then I won't move. But Kyochi understood. If it was just a temporary stay, Tsunade would have no idea of moving, and would leave after a few days. But she has the idea of moving back, which means that Tsunade has no intention of leaving. Although it is not clear why there is a change in attitude, Kyochi thinks it may have something to do with him. Are you touched by me? Kyochi was lost in thought. But he soon let it go. It is a good thing that Tsunade stays, and it would be even better if he succeeds Hokage early. Not that Minato can't. Kyochi believes that Minato can also become a good Hokage, but obviously, it is difficult for Minato to compete with these gangsters regardless of qualifications or means. In the end, it's likely to be a Hokage with 3 advisors in Konoha. This configuration, only Tsunade can suppress it. But if you want to be Hokage, you can't use sideways to get around it. Tsunade has to overcome hemophobia seriously, otherwise this weakness will lead to bad things sooner or later. Thinking of this, Kyochi couldn't help looking through the medical books, but Konoha didn't have any mental health care. No wonder there are so many goofs. So, the next day. Sister Tsunade, I couldn't sleep last night, and finally found something. Studying medicine can't save Konoha. Tsunade looked suspicious. Subsequently, Kyochi shared his thoughts. Konoha's medical treatment has been very developed, and now many ninja losses are actually not from the physical level, but from the psychological level. Tsunade was weird at first. But later, she gradually became serious. Tsunade has actually discovered these situations, but she has not paid special attention to them all the time. After hearing what Kyochi said, she found that it is indeed reasonable. In terms of physical medical skills, Konoha is already the leader in the whole ninja world. But psychologically, they did not study it in particular. It shouldn't be. For example, the most distressing, Senior Shuo Mao, if someone enlightens him and gives him psychological treatment, maybe our village can have another strong person. Suo Mao's affairs are very complicated, but it is true that the old man did not do well. Tsunade sighed. But she quickly thought of Kakashi. That brat is also very twisted now. If he really studies psychotherapy, he should treat that brat first. And herself. Tsunade thought for a while and said, you are right. This is also a kind of medical treatment, and the next stage of medical treatment should be psychological healing. Miss Tsunade, you come to research and implement it. Huh. You. Brat, I don't need your help like this. This is your idea. I don't have time to study. Miss Tsunade really minds. Just add my name to the research. Kyoshi shook his head. He asked Tsunade to do it. Of course he hoped that Tsunade would further become famous and completely stabilize his position. On the other hand, he was so busy that he didn't have time to delve into it. What I can do is to share with Tsunade the psychological knowledge I acquired at the university in my previous life, but Tsunade needs to build a more robust psychotherapy system. Tsunade benefited greatly. She used to have only a vague idea that psychological problems can lead to diseases, and her phobia is one of them, but she never considered that psychological problems can be listed as a treatment item alone. Tsunade can't wait to get into research right away. But mental illness involves a lot. To complete research and establish a project requires a lot of case observation and research, which cannot be done in a short period of time. And, right now, there is something more important to Konoha. Chunin exam. Today is the third game. All the Jonin in Konoha were asked to watch, so that the daimyo could see the strength of Konoha today. Kyoshi is also on this list, but he didn't feel good about it. In the one-on-one arena competition, there is not much difference, it is just purely beautiful. This is an exhibition game. The daimyo watched it with relish. Even if it was an ordinary genin duel, he could still watch it very intently. This duel, I don't believe it if there is no arrangement. Tsunade pouted. The schedule is too obvious. Game 1 was 2 regular genins from Team Shisui. The second round was tied with Ebisu, the third round. The strength of the duel is stronger from one round to the next, and the gimmicks are more than one wave, especially the fourth female ninja duel, the gimmicks are almost full. Shisui also had a bye. It's an exhibition match. Whose card game comes up to Wang Zha? Kyoshi smiled. Didn't the daimyo just enjoy watching it? Finally they're here. Shizune clapped his hands aside. Tsunade glanced at her, and the child stopped immediately in fright. The next moment, Tsunade said, "It's not you. What are you so happy for?" It's hard to have a medical ninja duel. Red is not a medical ninja. She is mainly an illusion, followed by a medical ninja. I plan to train her to be a field medical ninja. Normal medical ninjas lack actual combat. Although it can play a role on the battlefield, in order to avoid being attacked and killed in the team, it is generally rarely organized into a 4-person team. The Sunset Red is different. Tsunade nodded thoughtfully. This is the line of thought she advocated before, but unfortunately, for most people, it is difficult enough to learn medical ninjutsu, let alone master enough fighting skills. She came interested. Off the field, Yuhihong and Nohara Rin formed the seal of opposition, and then the two started to seal at the same time, after a while. In their hands, the chakra blade emerged at the same time. Chakra scalpel? Shizune was surprised. This technique is a level difficulty, and it is mainly used for surgery and surgery. Could it be used in combat? She looked at Tsunade. Tsunade frowned and said, "Chakra scalpel can cut muscles and blood vessels, and it seems that it can be used for fighting, but it's too dangerous for you to let them use this method?" It's okay, as I said beforehand, the essence of an exhibition game is not strength, but who plays well and plays well. Kyoshi smiled. Strength means nothing. In the Chunin exam, didn't Naruto still win? But in the end, there was only one Nara Shikamaru who surrendered to become Chunin. Tsunade clearly understands this. Shizune didn't quite understand. But she wasn't interested in figuring it out either, so she was concentrating on watching the battle below. The seemingly simple battle is full of dangers. Hokage, what kind of ninjutsu are they doing? Daimyo couldn't understand. It was the first time for Konoha to use chakra scalpel in combat. Even third generation was stunned for a while, let alone not a famous ninja. But third generation is quick to respond. He was puzzled at first, but soon figured it out. Chakra scalpel can cut muscles, blood vessels, etc. In the past, we medical ninjas were most afraid of actual combat, but we found that chakra scalpel also has good results in actual combat. These two are using this method now. Third generation explained. So that's how it is. Daimyo understands now, this technique is very strong. As long as the two sides hit first, whoever takes the lead. However, Yuhihong attacked fiercely, while Nohara Lin defended tightly, and no one could take the other. At this moment, Yuhihong suddenly made a strange movement. Her head was shaking. What is this for? Shizune couldn't understand. Secret technique, jump left and right. Kyoshi was joking. Tsunade sat upright, looked carefully for a while, saw Nohara Rin suddenly turned away, and immediately understood the key. Illusion. She used the iron plate of the forehead protector to reflect light, and achieved the illusion effect with light. This is very advanced usage. Tsunade felt déjà vu, and after a moment, she thought of. In another place, a ninja who was behind the blame was also thoughtful when he saw this scene. Konoha Ryu Willow. Although the form has changed, this illusion is the core of Lu Jianshu. Lin. Obito panicked, stood up and shouted. She was hit by the illusion of Konoha Liu Liu. Jia said. Konoha Liu Liu? Kakashi was startled, he remembered. This is fencing. Can the illusion of swordsmanship be stripped out? Nohara Rin quickly undid the spell, but the moment she undid it, Yuhihong had already arrived. Hand brushed. In an instant, her right leg gave way and she fell to the ground. But, in the air, she quickly formed a seal. Then, beside her, two clones appeared. Water body. The water bodies didn't have their muscles cut. One of them fought with Hong, and the other ran away holding Nohara Lin. Immediately afterwards, after some seals, Lin's chakra was changed to healing jutsu, rolled on the spot after landing, and immediately stuck to the wound on her leg. A good tactic, I doubt if you have carefully designed it. Tsunade smiled. Calling in and out is simply a turn-based system. Actually, if it was an actual battle, what Hong Yuhi cut across the board was not the leg muscles, but the blood vessels of the 5 internal organs. It's an exhibition match. Kyochi didn't answer directly. He didn't arrange it directly, but just told them to show the essence of medical ninja fighting, so that Konoha's senior management could understand that medical ninjas can also fight. Obviously. The two listened. It turns out that medical ninjas can also have such a high level of fighting. Many people were surprised. No matter Yuhihong or Nohara Lin, the grasp and arrangement of the battle are in place, especially the water body just now, it is simply amazing. But Nohara Lin was injured after all. Although she used healing jutsu, she healed herself quickly, and the delay during this period was enough for Kurenai Yuhi to catch up. This time, Kurenai Yuhi didn't hold back. Catch up. Then, the knife in his right hand fell, cutting off Nohara Rin's leg muscles. Left hand. Boom. Punch. The ground cracked. Strange power technique? Tsunade was surprised. Kurenai Yuhi forcibly uses this technique. It's too risky. But, the next moment, she knew that her worry was unnecessary. Because Kurenai Yuhi quickly jumped away, although the ligament was strained in her left hand, she was still able to barely seal the seal, and cooperated with healing jutsu to complete the treatment quickly. I didn't teach this tactic, she thought of it herself. Kyochi smiled. Yuhihong's vision and tactical thinking are much stronger than before. No need to teach, she figured out how to choose by herself. The recovery of the ligaments is limited in a short period of time, and they cannot withstand repeated use of strange force, so use them separately. This is her answer. I surrender.